Chapter 21. Magic Kai took this experience seriously as it would prove to be beneficial for him. After all, this was the first time he experienced something close to the real world. With just one misstep, they got chased by a pack of wolves while being surrounded from all directions. Ayaka couldn't kill them as it might alarm the other magical beasts nearby. So, the only choice for them was to run toward the cliff so they could have a terrain advantage. But because of one moment of carelessness, the ape tried to ambush Ayaka, which he then blocked for her. Unfortunately, because of that, it proved to be fatal as they were ambushed once again. He was considering various things from that experience, and there was one thing that he thought about seriously. He was thinking about locating the magical beasts more accurately, not only their location, but also their forms and power, and there was one good example of that. But Kai also considered it from another point of view, since there would be times where he would not have a skill of that convenience. Maybe they should have stopped and fought the wolves instead of running away. He could set up a sound insulation room to fight the wolves, but a pack of wolves would usually be organized, and if they fought without any plan, it would be hard to kill them immediately. Kai was trying to come up with more plans. Since he had finished his class, he could go home and think about this the entire day. On the other hand, Ayaka was also devastated by the defeat. She was unsatisfied with her performance. It was indeed true that she was a good teammate at first, but when they fought the ape, she couldn't do anything, and that frustrated her. She told him she was going to show him her skills, but eventually it was only at a low-level battle. Meanwhile, at the high-level battle, like the one against those apes, she could only do what Kai ordered her to do. When her butler picked her up, he was puzzled by her state. She kept mumbling things like, "I could have done this," or "I could have done that." And finally, when she came home, she even forgot to greet her grandfather and immediately went to her room. As soon as she reached her room, she turned on the huge television in her room. Its use was like a tablet, but it was as big as a 30-inch television. She usually used this to learn. She immediately researched her element, fire. Fire is the rapid oxidation of a material in the exothermic chemical of combustion, releasing heat, light, and various reaction products. She read the definition of fires while mumbling, "Combustion. My fire wing seems to use this method. It uses a small fire combustion to let me fly upward, sideways, and downward." She found a video where a person tried to make a fire tornado. It was an experiment of fire with two glass half-cylinders. When that person lit a fire inside a normal cylinder, it only became a normal fire where it burned the fuel normally. But when that person slightly offset the two glass half-cylinders, the fire suddenly rose and spun. The normal fire suddenly became a fire whirl. She was mesmerized by that experiment. Not long after that, she realized that it was pretty similar to her flares. She thought for a little bit, and her eyes suddenly brightened. Her flares took the concept of this experiment. The magic circle acted as those two half-cylinders, along with her magic power to amplify her fire, that made the magic. She was surprised, since she never thought of this possibility before she heard Kai's explanation. She only used the magic book that her grandfather gave her, and she realized that all of those skills inside that book were compiled so others could learn it easily. That book only made her a magic user or a magic thrower, but not a magician. She didn't know why, but Kai was a true magician. He thought about the principle himself and made skills based on it. He came up with an original way of using magic. Without notice, her grandfather came into her room. "Ho ho, what are you doing in such a rush that you even forgot about me?" Ayaka suddenly remembered that she didn't greet her grandfather like she usually did. She was too focused on this. She became a bit embarrassed. I'm sorry, I was a bit too focused on this," she said with a red face. "Oh, what could make you so focused that you forgot?" He looked at the screen and saw the experiment of fire with two glass half-cylinders. He was surprised to see that and asked her, "You mean this video?" "Yeah. I just realized that magic also comes from something like this. This is actually the principle of my flare's magic, I think, and my firewing skill uses the principle of combustion." "Oh, why are you suddenly thinking about this?" he asked. He was pretty surprised to hear something like this from her, as she had never shown any interest before. He remembered. Back then, Ayaka asked him for a magic book so she could get stronger. He gave her the magic book that she wanted and let her practice the skills in that book. He watched her grow up from there and was pretty satisfied with her progress. But eventually, he also knew that it was only a magic book. And inside that book were skills that came from other people. And those people usually made skills because they wanted to use it to their own liking. And he himself also had a few skills that he originally made for his own purposes. So even if Ayaka learned from there, she might not be able to use those skills to their full potential. He wanted to tell her about this after she got into a high school, since he also realized it when he was in high school. He thought she would eventually realize that with time and experience. But surprisingly, she already had this kind of thought just a week after she enrolled. He became curious as to why she suddenly became like this. So he asked that question. I just realized how much I'm relying on the easy way. And after watching him, I realized that he makes his own skills so he can use it more efficiently, she said while recalling how Kai used his magic. Oh, he frowned. He didn't know why, but Kai's figure flashed inside his mind. He suddenly said with a teasing tone, "Is it that Kai charter?" "Yes," Ayaka nodded innocently. She didn't realize that her grandfather was trying to tease her. He remembered that she had a practical class today. "So was he your partner for the practical class?" Ayaka nodded again. "What kind of skills did he use?" He probed. Ayaka pondered for a moment. "He can make a barrier that can prevent sounds from traveling to the outside. I think he called it sound insulation rooms. And I don't know about this, but I think he also used an improved barrier skill." "Oh, an improved barrier." He became a bit interested after hearing it. "Yes, I don't know how, but he managed to block a full blow of a giant A-rank red ape," she voiced. "That sounds pretty good. At the very least, I might not be so confident in blocking that, since they're well known for their explosive power," he told her. "And the last one, I don't know what it is, but it seems to produce a deafening sound. It's like a double-edged sword. After using that skill, he suddenly bled from all orifices, and his body looked very brittle, as though it might break at any moment. But with that skill, he also killed quite a number of magical beasts," she explained. I can't lose to him. That's why I also need to research the skills that I can use as convenient as his magic." "Well, he said that I might need to get a skill that can help with my movement, so I think I'll start with that." Kudo Taru was astonished to hear that. Although he already expected original skills from an unorthodox magician like him, it was beyond his imagination that he was that strong for a high school student. A storm might brew soon in United Asia, and somehow he could picture it. "Well, if you have any questions, you can ask your parents or me. What you're about to do is the first step to become a full-fledged magician. All full-fledged magicians have at least one original magic, so do your best." "Yes, grandfather. I'll do my best. But, anyway, you seemed pretty happy when you were talking about that lad, Kai Carter." "It seems that the special fate of this family has come without you knowing it," he said, trying to tease her again. When he said that, she suddenly froze. She realized that throughout today, she kept thinking about Kai doing this, and that she was dumbfounded the moment she realized that. She looked at her grandfather with his smug face and blushed. "I know, I don't like him that way. He is indeed a good friend and a comrade. That's right, he's just a comrade. It's nice to have him around when you're fighting monsters. Only as a comrade, all right." She denied him, but she unconsciously praised Kai once again. Her grandfather only looked at her with a smug smile. He didn't care whether Ayaka chose Kai or that Katsuragi brat. But considering that Kai was an unorthodox magician, it might be better if she fell in love with Kai. He then started walking away and said, "Ho ho, this old man will just watch from the sideline and wait for the good news, grandfather." Chapter 22. Training. The next Monday, they finally came back to school. Shirotsuka Sanae was explaining about the roles. She chose to do this because it would be better for them to experience it themselves first before she explained it. After all, without knowing how it works in real life, it would be hard for them to picture it in their heads with her explanation. When you're in the outside world, you'll usually go with a group of 5. Each of you will have a role in the group: vanguard, scout, support, and attackers. As a vanguard, do not think about taking the magical beast's attacks alone. You can dodge the magical beast's attacks, and you shouldn't spend much energy when fighting a magical beast. And if possible, you should also attack the magical beasts. As for scouts, although your main responsibility is to search for magical beasts nearby, there are 2 other jobs for you to do. Firstly, you need to scout for other monsters nearby. After all, if your group were to attract another group of magical beasts to your position, things may turn to the worst. So you need to keep track of your position, your team, and other magical beasts. The other thing you need to do is make an ambush toward the magical beasts that your group is currently fighting. You should not let your position get found out easily. As for supports, I don't have much to say. You should know that as a support, you need to support your entire team. You are the one who needs to have the perfect timing the most, helping the vanguard in dealing with the magical beasts' attacks, and assisting your team's attackers so the magical beasts wouldn't be able to block their attacks are a few examples of your duties. And lastly, attackers. All you need to do is to attack, make sure you kill the magical beasts as soon as possible. And, if possible, you shouldn't make a big move from the very beginning, as it might give away your group position and attract the magical beasts. Shirotsuka Sanae explained. Everyone was taking notes. With all these categories, Ayaka glanced at Kai. He had performed everything, from vanguard, scout, to attacker. She then tried to recall how she fought, and it turned out that she only performed the role of attacker and support. Even her support role was only because of Kai's orders. She began to contemplate. She was thinking, if she were to take that role, how would she do it? She might be able to pass with flying colors as an attacker, but for the other roles, she realized that she was pretty lacking. She could fly if she had to scout the area, but she would most likely get spotted by the magical beasts since she pretty much had to be in the open when she did that. She could act as a vanguard with her fire armor, but it was also pretty hard for her to do that. Fortunately, she might be able to become a support, as she would only need to practice her timing. Shirotsuka Sanae glanced at Kai when she was explaining all of this. Kai was an enigma. She couldn't understand him nor his actions, but she had a nostalgic feeling when she looked at him. She didn't know why, but this guy had a deep secret. The class continued that way, and obviously Katsuragi Takaki was glancing toward Ayaka and Kai from time to time. Kai didn't pay any attention to him. A few more days of the theoretical class passed, and they once again arrived at the end of Thursday. They knew they would have a practical class once again. For tomorrow's practical class, we're not going to kill monsters again, Sanae told everyone. Was astonished to hear that. They thought they were going to challenge those monsters again, and the students were pretty eager for their comebacks. For tomorrow, we'll still come to the gym, but instead of using the practice tubes, we'll train your physical bodies. Your bodies aren't developed yet, and when you fight in the outside world, you'll fight with your real bodies. Even if your minds are capable of killing the magical beasts, it would be a shame if your bodies can't keep up with you. So you will all train your bodies tomorrow, and we will do this every month. So every month, you will use practical tubes, then the second week, you will train your bodies. And the third week, you will use the practical tubes, while you will experience the outside world in the fourth week. And finally, when Friday came, the youths also bloomed. Inside the gym, the women were wearing bloomers, which became a very pleasing sight for the guys. Shirotsuka Sanae immediately explained it again. Today, you'll partner up with your previous partner again. Although you won't need a group for today, it might be better to deepen your relationships with your partners since they'll be your partner for a year. Alright? Start with stretching. Ask your partner to help you with stretching. When Katsuragi Takaki heard that, he couldn't believe it. He thought that he would be able to have some time together with Ayaka. Unfortunately, he wouldn't be able to get it because she would be too occupied with Kai. Kai helped her do her warm-ups. Seeing the two perfect peaks under the pure white snow and the bloomers that enhanced her attractiveness by several levels, Kai only looked at her with a casual face, and she also helped him do his warm-ups. There were too many skinships in these warm-ups, making Ayaka's face flush red. Well, he wasn't a perverted guy who wanted to experience that kind of blessing, nor was he someone like Katsuragi Takaki who was obsessed with her. Kai treated her like a friend, maybe a closer one after that experience inside the practice tube. This will be our menu for today, Shirotsuka Sanae said while manipulating the wind with her magic. She used her wind magic to make a banner float in midair. 100-kilometer run, 500 push-ups, 500 sit-ups, 500 pull-ups, 5-kilometer run with weight and without magic, 2 hours of continuous usage of magic. When everyone saw that, they were dumbfounded. They were wondering if this teacher wanted to kill them. Looking at their dumbfounded looks, Sanae immediately explained, You can use your magic power to help you with the runs, so I'm sure you'll be able to finish it within 2 or 3 hours. The time limit is 4 hours. You can rest if you manage to do it before the time limit is up, and those push-ups, sit-ups, and pull-ups will finish before you know it. After that, you'll run with a weight and without the support of your magic power. So, in this course, you need to rely on your physical abilities. Don't worry, I'll be lenient and let you off with 20 kilograms of weight. Back in my days, we needed to run with a 50-kilogram weight. Since all of your bodies have yet to develop, I'll let you off with 20 kilograms. You should normally be able to finish this in 1 hour. And lastly, you'll need to use your magic for 2 consecutive hours. Don't worry, this training menu was made considering your ages and bodies. This isn't torture, but training to let you develop your ability. If you manage to do it every month, I won't give you a spoiler, so you can work hard to anticipate the result. They facepalmed when they heard about the result. They cursed the teacher because of her explanation. Ayaka looked at Kai and asked, "Should we compare?" But before she finished her words, she suddenly remembered what she had promised to herself. She quickly corrected herself. "I mean, should we finish it together? It might improve our teamwork for next week." Kai thought for a bit and nodded his head, but suddenly, Katsuragi Takaki came once again. "Well, how about we compete in this class?" He thought Ayaka would come once again and accepted it. With that, he would have a chance to have some time with Ayaka. Unfortunately, his expectation was betrayed. After experiencing that harsh world, Ayaka had matured a bit. She didn't reply like how she did a week ago. Instead, she replied, "Competing is good, but too much competition is bad. The purpose of this class is for us to train our bodies, not to compete." He was shocked by Ayaka's reply. He immediately tried to come up with a reason. "But a little competition like this might improve our motivation. Our motivation is good enough. If we're too eager to see who'll win or lose, we might end up doing too much, and it will affect the result of the training. This training menu must have been made after a lot of considerations, so it wouldn't be good to do more." Ayaka replied. Wah! He couldn't believe what he heard. Ayaka kept denying his claims. He gritted his teeth while looking at Kai hatefully. He wanted to taunt him, but he knew that it was a bad idea for him to do that. After all, it might affect Tashikata's impression of him. He went away with rage. He didn't show it on his face, though Shirotsuka Sanae glanced at Kai before looking at everyone and announced out loud, "All right. We are starting now. First, a 100-kilometer run. You only need to run around the school for 20 times and come back to this place. Now, Go." With that signal, the class started running outside the gym. Ayaka looked at Kai and said, "Let's go." Kai nodded, and both of them started running together. Chapter 23. Another problem. Kai and Ayaka started running. It was a pretty normal run until Kai felt something wrong. He was someone who didn't want to have much exposure, and that trained his skills to feel others' gazes on him. And at this time, he felt as though someone was watching him. Kai suddenly took his headphones off. Ayaka was confused by his action. It was abnormal to have Kai remove his headphones. She didn't know why, but she also felt something wrong when Kai took his headphones off. Kai didn't answer her as he tried to focus on listening to his surroundings while running. And not long after, he suddenly picked up something. "I see. So that is the guy I need to cripple. He doesn't seem like it, but he surely feels dangerous. I can't act now since the girl beside him is the Kudo group's princess. I'll blow up his leg with this sniper after he finishes school," a guy on top of a huge tower said while using his binoculars to observe Kai and Ayaka. Beside him was a huge sniper rifle powered by magic power. It also had a suppressor. It was a well-known weapon for assassination. Kai immediately frowned when he heard that. Of course, he didn't notice the sniper rifle as the weapon didn't make a sound. "Kai, for you to frown like this, did something happen?" Ayaka asked worriedly. Kai shook his head. It seemed that this guy wasn't going to do something when Kai was completing the task from Shirotsuka Sanae. So, until school was over, he would be fine, but he wouldn't put his headphones back. "It's fine," Kai assured her while contemplating. He had no idea as to who wanted to cripple him. He was thinking about calling his sister, Tashikata, for help. He would request her to take him to that building with her space magic. He was sure that Tasha would immediately be enraged if she heard this, but for safety reasons, he would still need her help. So, he was thinking about how to calm her down later. Ayaka was looking at him with a worried expression this entire time. Looking at him, she knew there must be something wrong. After all, Kai didn't put his headphones back on. They continued running with their magic power. Kai and Ayaka were running at 40 kilometers. As a magician, they could run faster than that, but it still wouldn't exceed 60 kilometers. But that alone made them pretty powerful compared to normal people. They chose not to run that fast because they wanted to conserve energy, and around 2 hours later, they finally finished their long run. Some students finished earlier, but they were tired as hell. They thought they could rest longer if they finished as soon as possible. But it was actually a bad idea, as they became like this after they finished. They were not sure whether they could fully recover before the time limit. On the other hand, Kai and Ayaka just used their optimal speed to conserve their energy. When they arrived, Ayaka pulled him to the side. "Kai, tell me honestly. There's something wrong, isn't there?" Ayaka asked. "It's fine. You don't need to worry about it." Kai tried to assure her, but to no avail. Ayaka kept pressing him, and eventually he sighed. "There's a guy that seems to want to blow up my legs. I don't know who he is and why he wants to do this," Kai finally told her. Ayaka was startled when she heard that. She never expected something like this as she asked, "Why do you have someone who wants your life or something?" "Well, he just wants to cripple me and not take my life. I don't know what he's planning, but I'm going to find out," Kai said. "I'll ask my grandfather for help," Ayaka said. At first, she wanted to help him, but she knew that if there were to be even a single misstep, their lives would be in danger. She wasn't foolish enough to let Kai or herself die, even if it meant that she needed to rely on her grandfather. After all, it was more logical to ask for help in this situation. But it was different for Kai. He didn't want to receive help from that geezer, not because he was a fool, but because he couldn't afford to owe him a favor. After all, he knew Kai was Tashikata's younger brother. That alone made him think twice before owing someone a favor. After all, they might use it for something unexpected. Of course, they could also ignore it, but if they did, they might also be targeted by those people. After all, with such a reputation, they would only get scorn from other people. So, the best solution to this problem was to ask his sister for help. She could teleport them to that person and ambush him. But Ayaka wanted to protest, but to no avail. She thought about calling her grandfather in secret, but she was afraid that Kai would hate her for that. After all, no matter what secret conversation they would have, Kai would be able to hear it since he took off his headphones. She shook her head helplessly. She chose to believe in him. "Fine, I'll believe in you, but you can't get injured, all right? After all, we're partners," Ayaka voiced, blushing when she said the word partners. She didn't know why, but it felt weird when she said that. "Thanks," Kai nodded his head. And finally, the time limit for the run had ended. They would need to do some more exercise. First, push-ups. The guys in the class started looking right and left, trying to behold a glorious sight. When they moved to the sit-ups, the guys who had a female partner looked at them with perverted eyes. After all, it came up and down right in front of them, as they needed to hold their legs to help them. When Ayaka looked at them, especially their perverted eyes, she twitched her eyebrows. She looked at Kai, whose eyes didn't have any trace of perverted thoughts. She also twitched her eyebrows at this. She didn't know if she should be happy or not about Kai not having perverted thoughts on her. She was wondering if she didn't have a good figure or wasn't beautiful enough. But with her 82-58-79 body, she thought it wasn't that bad. She somewhat hurt when Kai treated her like this. Even when she was helping him stretch, there was a lot of skinship. But Kai just acted as he usually did. "Kai, do you think I'm bare?" She suddenly stopped before she finished her words. She almost blurted out her thoughts. No matter what other people said, she almost asked him whether she was beautiful or not. From others' perspectives, it was the same as flirting. She suddenly became too embarrassed to speak, as her face suddenly became as red as a tomato. Kai didn't understand her, but when he asked her, she glared at him. Once again, he couldn't understand her. They finished their exercises and finally moved into the run with weight. It was a hard run. Surprisingly, Kai didn't break a sweat despite having that 20-kilogram weight on him while running. He even asked her if she wanted him to take the weight. Ayaka only rebuked him by asking, "Are you a monster?" Kai then didn't ask her anymore and continued running. And after the session of 2 hours of continuously using magic, they were utterly exhausted. Even though they were exhausted, Kai moved his body to find his sister, leaving Ayaka alone. He thought that if they delayed it even a little bit, they would be in a dangerous position. Not long after, he found his sister. Well, they usually went back together, so they would meet sooner or later. But to see Kai suddenly come to her on his initiative, she was overwhelmed by emotions. After all, Kai had never done anything like this. Kai finally knows my efforts, and he's coming to me on his own initiative. She jumped toward him, trying to hug him. Unfortunately, Kai avoided her as usual, letting her pass him and fall to the ground. This isn't the time for that. I heard someone say he wants to blow up my legs. He said, "What?" Tasha was baffled. But Kai wasn't someone who liked to joke with something like that, so she immediately became furious. "Who is he? I need your help." Kai asked her to follow him. They were completely covered by the building, so the sniper wouldn't be able to spot them. He pointed his finger toward one of the tallest buildings. "You see that building? He is at the top of that building. Then it'll be easy. Let's go immediately." Tasha said. Kai nodded, and they teleported to their target. The sniper was trying to search for Kai's position, since they should have finished the class and would leave the school at this time. But then, he suddenly felt killing intent from behind him. He turned around, but it was too late. "Ah!" Kai cut his 2 legs while Tasha immediately destroyed his sniper. How did you come to this place?" the sniper asked with great difficulty, as he was trying to hold back the pain. "And why do you want to blow up my leg?" Kai asked with killing intent. He was surprised to see killing intent like this from a student. He immediately recognized this particular killing intent, as he felt that this Kai must have killed someone. "How do you know?" "If you don't even know how I know about it, then you're not qualified to ask me." "Just answer my question," Kai asked casually. "You won't be able to get anything from me." Kai looked at his sister. She nodded her head and put her hand on the man's head. "Ah!" the sniper suddenly screamed. Tasha was using her lightning magic to torture him a little bit, but it seemed that her effort was futile. The sniper only smiled and said, "You won't be able to get anything from me, ACTI beat." When he said that, a magic circle appeared on the position of his heart. He suddenly spat out some blood and died. Chapter 24, Request. "You won't be able to get anything from me, ACTAT. When he said that, a magic circle appeared on the position of his heart. He suddenly spat out some blood and died. Kai and Tasha furrowed their eyebrows. They never thought he would kill himself. Tasha was just going to use her lightning magic to interrogate him, but he had killed himself before she got the chance to. "So what should we do with this?" Tasha asked. Kai approached the dead guy and started searching his body. He tried to search for any useful information on his body, but to no avail. There was no clue or whatsoever. "Maybe we should dispose of this dead body first," Kai suggested. Tasha nodded her head. "Let me handle that." She approached the corpse. At the same time, Kai made some distance from the corpse. Tasha then waved her hand toward him. "I'll be away for a bit then." Kai nodded. Tasha then used her teleportation magic and disappeared along with the corpse. After around 20 seconds or so, she came back alone. She said, "I've thrown the corpse to the ocean. I needed to use my teleportation magic a few times to reach that place, and a few more to come back here." "Thank you for your hard work," Kai said hurriedly. There would be a demand from his sister if he didn't cut her off like that. Tasha only pouted a little before asking him again, "What about this incident? This is really abnormal. After all, I would usually be the one who targeted." Tasha was curious. They had been targeted by a few people from time to time because of the reputation of her being an S rank, but they were targeting her, not her family. That was why she was curious as to why Kai suddenly got targeted by a hitman. "I also don't know about this. I think we should be on more alert," Kai said. "All right, I'll investigate this since I can teleport if they find me. Protect our parents. Make sure to call me if there are any suspicious people around the house," Tasha instructed. "Got it, I'll be careful. But something's bugging me. Because of this incident, I think you should be more careful when you explore the outside world. After all, you'll need to go to the outside world in another 2 weeks to gain experience. I feel that whoever wants to harm you might specifically choose that time to strike after this failure, so make sure to be careful." "I know," Kai nodded. "They could only solve this by themselves. After all, They couldn't bother their parents with this, because even if they knew about this, their parents wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Reporting to the authority would also have its problems. They thought about asking the academy, but it was outside of their jurisdictions, so they could only rely on themselves to solve this problem. "Let's go home first," Tasha said. Kai nodded his head, and they came back home with Tasha's teleportation magic. The following week, Kai didn't wear his headphones. Although it was pretty taxing for him, he also wanted to investigate the matter with his own hands to help Tasha. Unfortunately, there was no clue whatsoever. Even Katsuragi Takaki didn't make any suspicious movements. He was wondering who was the real target. Was their target truly him, or was it his sister? If they knew about it, it would be far easier to investigate this. Sadly, they didn't know anything, so they could only blindly search for clues. Ayaka was obviously surprised to see Kai not wearing his headphones the entire week. She knew about Kai's extraordinary hearing and even saw his health certificate. She tried to ask Kai about what was going on, but Kai didn't answer her. She then asked her grandfather without his permission. Of course, she was also included in the investigation. She tried to learn everything from her grandfather, as this investigation might be able to increase her understanding of being a scout. Unfortunately, even with the help of her grandfather, they didn't find anything. She was frustrated. And finally, once again, the practical class arrived. It was the time where they would experience that world once again. "We're going to the gym again. This is the chance for you to prove yourselves. After all, I know you have no experience 2 weeks prior, but now that you have the knowledge, you should be able to perform far better than you did 2 weeks ago. I wish you luck." Shirotsuka Sanai explained. She added, "Kai Kata and Kudo Ayaka, come outside. I need to talk to you." Kai, who was trying to think about the investigation, was surprised to hear his name called by Shirotsuka Sanai. It was the same for Ayaka. They then rose from their seats and came out of the class. Shirotsuka Sanai looked at them for a few seconds. She finally said, "How was the world 2 weeks ago?" Ayaka was surprised by the question, but she immediately replied with the same answer she gave the principal. "It's challenging." Kai only nodded his head, telling her he agreed. Sanai sighed. "Well, I don't know why you would think that. Usually, new students like you would be traumatized by that world. Fortunately, you two weren't, or the principal would be handed to the authorities or be handled by your families. Anyway, what I wanted to tell you is about that world. You won't go to that world again, as it was a bit unfair to you and to the other students. I don't know why you two can get such a high score. That must be because of you, right, Kai Kata?" Ayaka was startled, while Kai remained calm. But because of Ayaka's expression, his achievement had been blown up. "Don't worry. I learned about this 2 weeks ago, so you don't need to mind her startled expression just now. She might need to learn to control her expressions, though." Sanai smiled slightly and said. When she heard that, Ayaka was really embarrassed. It wasn't unintentional for her to make such a face. Anyway, although she's an A-rank magician as well as the famous Kudo Group's princess, I don't think she can get such a high score. After all, no matter what her background is, it's normal to have a bad first day due to lack of experience. But it's different for you, Kai. You are an enigma that I can't see through. So you should be the one who did it. I don't know what you did, though. She looked at Kai, who remained silent. She added, "You don't need to worry, I won't blabber. After all, judging from your explanation back then and this girl's reaction, I assumed there might be some price to pay, as expected of the younger brother of one of the 3 S-rank magicians. Anyway, I won't ask you anything. But there is one thing that I should tell you. No matter how high your talent or prowess is, it's impossible to challenge the whole world alone. Even an S-rank magician who's had numerous experiences under their belt won't be able to achieve that. That's why, no matter what, you should also rely on someone." Sorry, I deviated from my initial topic. Anyway, you won't be able to experience that world again for the time being. So today, you'll be going to the same world as the other students. But I want to remind you about your score. If you get a lower score than your previous one, the others might notice something, and even that student from the Katsuragi family was threatening me to get hold of your score details. Your score aside, it's different if it's the details about which monster you killed. After all, in the world that you two will face after this, there are no A-rank magical beasts, and only a low number of B-rank magical beasts. So my suggestion to you would be trying to get as many points as you can, Sanai explained. Ayaka and Kai were surprised to hear another lecture from her. Normally, it wasn't possible because of her character. Even if the students asked her a question, if school was over, she wouldn't answer it no matter what. That was why seeing her like this surprised them. But Ayaka noticed something. She remembered the last thing that the principal said 2 weeks ago. You can ask teacher Shirotsuka Sanae if you have any questions about the outside world. Her personality aside, she is indeed an elite amongst elites. She didn't know what he meant, but judging from her observation alone, it was truly impressive. She could notice such a small detail, and even made such a detailed conclusion. Ayaka nodded her head. I understand. I'll try my best. Kai also nodded his head and said, I'll try my best. All right, you can go back first. I'll lead you to the gym in a few minutes. They nodded and came back to the class. But Ayaka suddenly stopped him and said, Kai, this time, I want to ask something from you. What is it? You remember the last magic you used 2 weeks ago, right? Kai nodded. Please don't use it again this time. After all, watching you back then, I doubt you'll be able to use it in the real world. After all, you'll die along with the magical beasts if you use that magic. So please, don't use it again. Chapter 25. Frustrated Kai looked at her while pondering about her request. In the end, he nodded his head. He also didn't want to experience it again. All right, I won't use it again, I promise. Kai promised. Then, that's good. Ayaka nodded. Not long after, Shirotsuka Sanai came and led them to the gym. They chose the same practice tube. But unlike last time, the practice tube had been adjusted back, so even if they used it, they would be teleported to the same world as the others. They opened the tube and went inside, but before they started the machine, Ayaka said, I've been practicing a movement skill. I think I need to tell you about it. The movement magic is called Fire Amplifier. I can use it all over my body, be it on my hands, feet, or even my weapons. It's a small explosion that can increase my power or speed, depending on how I use it. But don't misunderstand, I'm not doing this because I like you or anything. I just pity you since you gave me the advice. Kai was surprised as he opened his mouth unconsciously. He thought, is this girl in her tsundere form? But I thought Ayaka doesn't have the potential to be a tsundere. Well, alright, I appreciate that, thank you. Should we go now? Kai asked casually. Ayaka felt a bit speechless seeing Kai's surprised expression. She didn't know why, but she somehow felt that he was thinking about something rude about her. She shook her head and decided not to think about it. She replied, sure. They put their hands on the screen to start the machine. As soon as the machine started, their consciousness got teleported to an unknown world yet again. They were surrounded by woods. But unlike last time, the woods at this place were much denser. They remembered that the previous world was made according to the data from the real world, so they were wondering if this place was also made with data from the outside world. When both of their eyes locked, they didn't know why, but they felt that both of them were thinking about the same thing. Ayaka asked, This is a forest, right? Kai nodded his head. I think so. Judging from the density of the trees and the temperature, we should be in a rainforest. If this place is also made with data from the outside world, I don't know which rainforest we're in, though I was also thinking the same thing. I was wondering if this place is also made with data from the outside world. She agreed with him. She then asked, Any magical beasts around us? Kai nodded. Because he didn't put on his headphones for a while, he immediately picked the sound from his surroundings, but from his observation, the magical beasts were distributed evenly. There were a lot of magical beasts that were alone, so they could kill them one by one. And surprisingly, he only found a few magical beasts that lived in a group, and all of them numbered not more than 10. He finally realized how absurd the previous world was. He said to Ayaka, Good news. The surroundings are good. A lot of magical beasts are alone, so we can target them one at a time. And the bad news? Well, they're a bit too alone. No, they're a little bit far from each other. So we'll need to move around a lot too. I don't think we need to set up a base, Kai told her what he got from his observation. Ayaka nodded her head as she completely trusted him on this. All right. How about we kill the one closest to us? Sure, Kai agreed. The first monster they faced was an E-rank magical elephant. From the outside, it was like a normal elephant, but it could move very fast. Ayaka and Kai were a bit surprised by its speed, but they suppressed and killed it in a matter of seconds. They moved on to the second closest magical beast. This time, they met a D-ranked tiger. Kai and Ayaka killed it within a few moves. They moved around to kill as many as they could. Kai set up a sound insulation room if there were quite a number of magical beasts nearby so they wouldn't be surrounded. After a few hours, they took a break. Ayaka sat on a big trunk while Kai leaned on a tree. We've killed 100 F-rank magical beasts, 39 E-rank magical beasts, 17 D-rank magical beasts, and 4 C-rank magical beasts. It's nowhere near our previous score, and I'm a bit tired from moving around, Ayaka sighed. Don't be fixated on the score, it's just a number. I mean, you can try various magic attacks because of the scarcity of the magical beasts. Just treat this as training. I know, but it's a little bit frustrating, she said. Luckily, they didn't make any more bets with Katsuragi Takaki. If not, they would be in a bad position. After all, unlike Katsuragi Takaki, this was the first time they experienced this world. Frustrating, huh? Kai murmured. Ayaka heard that, and she immediately corrected herself. Well, the frustrating part isn't because of our result. It's frustrating because there's such a big difference between this place and the previous one. 2 weeks ago, we fought with so many powerful magical beasts, and that kept us challenged. The dying part and my helplessness were indeed frustrating, but I could learn lots of things from that frustration. But this world doesn't provide that. I mean, there isn't much action. We mostly just found a single magical beast and killed it. But the magical beasts themselves were weak, I see. You're frustrated because you can't show your power or maybe the result of your training, Kai said while pondering something. Ayaka was startled when she heard that. She didn't understand how Kai could arrive at such a conclusion. No way, I'm not frustrated because of that. Ayaka denied it immediately. But you said you're frustrated because of the lack of action. You clearly want to show your prowess and make yourself feel good. Or are you a muscle brain? Kai glanced at her. A muscle brain? Are you insulting me? Ayaka was starting to get angry. Even though Kai was her partner, she couldn't accept what he just said. After all, she knew that she wasn't a muscle brain. She was just a delicate woman. I'm not insulting you. But just think about it. Why are you frustrated by this kind of battle? For me, I'm glad and I feel good to have this kind of battle. I prefer an easy battle. After all, I don't need that much energy to deal with the battle. Of course, it doesn't mean I love battles that are too easy, especially when fighting a human. If everything sounds too good, then you need to question why the enemy might bait you with that trap. Although there might not be something like that, that kind of thought would always linger in my head. As for a hard battle like that of 2 weeks ago, I don't have anything to say other than I certainly don't want to repeat that battle again unless it's necessary. Anyway, what I want to say is I love easy battles. Although it might be rude for me to say something like that to you, I'm sorry to say that, but I want to ask you, what's the real purpose of a battle? The real purpose of a battle. Ayaka looked at Kai in confusion. She didn't know why Kai asked her this question, but she pondered the question inside her head. Not long after, her eyes flashed. She looked at Kai with her eyes wide open. Kai smiled. What is the real purpose of a battle? It's an easy question for me. I'll answer to win or to survive, for glory. Nah, it's not for me. For wealth, I don't have any problems or any obsession with wealth. As long as my family is safe and sound, I'm good. Ayaka could not say another word after he said that. She realized that she was still too immature. In the outside world, there wouldn't be any glory or wealth. She suddenly recalled what her grandfather told her when she was a kid. There's no glory in the outside world, nor is there wealth. If you're too greedy for glory or wealth, you'll lose everything you have. After all, the higher the reward, the higher the cost. Back then, it cost me a good friend before I could realize that, so no matter what you do, fight to survive. Ayaka looked down, weighing something. Not long after that, she let out a long sigh. She then looked at Kai and apologized. I'm sorry I was too immature. I'm also immature, so I don't mind about that. I'm not saying you're wrong about the previous world and this world. After all, with experiences like that, we can slowly mature and get stronger. Fighting strong opponents is good, since we can learn lots of things from the fight. It's a fun thing to do until someone dies. Literally, I know. She nodded her head and stood up. I'm good now. Fighting to survive is good. But we still have a mission from teacher. Let's go. Kai knew the mission was to score as many points as they could. If not, they might be suspected of cheating or whatsoever. It would be more of a trouble than him fighting hard in this world. Kai nodded and led her to another monster. But they got unlucky. The first monster they found was a giant B-rank centipede. The centipede suddenly crawled out of the ground and stood tall. It looked at Kai and Ayaka. Scree IE. Chapter 26. Retreat. Scree. It even bypassed Kai's detection range. However, it wasn't because Kai didn't hear the centipede moving around in the ground. Kai did hear the movement in the ground. Still, unlike movements on the surface, Kai couldn't pinpoint the movements inside the ground because the sounds blurred with each other. When the centipede came to the surface, even Kai was shocked by its appearance. The centipede suddenly attacked Ayaka with its giant mouth. Although this centipede didn't look poisonous, that big mouth alone seemed to possess powerful strength. If one were to get bitten by that mandible, their bones might break and they might even die. Ayaka was surprised by the sudden appearance of the centipede. After all, it was even able to bypass Kai's detection range. With that sudden shout, she snapped back to her senses and saw that the centipede was trying to bite her. She immediately jumped backward to avoid the bite. Kai then moved to her side and said, "Sorry, I didn't detect this centipede." Ayaka realized that she was too dependent on Kai's ability. Even after she started to learn everything about it, when she came to this damn world with Kai, she forgot about it and relied on Kai yet again. She shook her head and said, "No, it was my fault. I shouldn't have been too dependent on you. Anyway, keep it for later. We should deal with this centipede first. I'll go as the vanguard, and you'll support me. All right?" Kai nodded. He looked at Ayaka with a smile. It seemed that she had matured. He remembered the first time he met her. She was just an innocent little girl who puts too much thought on her emotions whatsoever. Meanwhile, the current Ayaka, she should be able to get far stronger, and hopefully, one day, he would be able to trust his back completely to her. It wasn't that he didn't trust his back to her. He indeed trusted her, but he couldn't completely do so. After all, this world was only a replica. Even if they were to die in this place, they would still be fine. But in the outside world, once they died, it would be over. From what he heard from others, when one faces death, they wouldn't be able to think or use their 100%. Kai nodded and immediately went around the centipede. When the centipede saw that, the centipede immediately chased Kai with its giant body. Of course, Ayaka wouldn't let it have its way. Burned to cinders, flares. The fire flew toward the centipede's back. Boom, boom, boom. Her magic exploded on the centipede back. Unfortunately, it didn't even leave a scratch on its back. It seemed that the centipede could resist fire. But Ayaka's objective had been achieved. The centipede turned its body back to Ayaka Scree. "Come to me," Ayaka said, trying to taunt the centipede. A magic circle then appeared behind her as she voiced, "Fire wings." The moment her wings appeared, she flew to the sky to force the centipede out of its hole. The centipede had yet to show its entire body this whole time, but from this alone, they could see that the centipede would be more than 10 meters in length. Ayaka tried to force the centipede out of the ground. Surprisingly, before she managed to force the centipede out of the ground, it suddenly ignored her and turned back to Kai. "Oh no you don't," Ayaka said while making a magic circle. Firebirds boom boom boom. Once again, her attacks were rendered useless. It ignored Ayaka's attack and continued to rush toward Kai. She shouted. Of course, Kai also noticed this. Kai dodged to the side. However, the centipede seemed to have anticipated that, as when he dodged to the side, it turned its head toward Kai. Kai immediately swung his sword toward its big mouth. Obviously, Kai was losing in this exchange, but Kai had never expected to win this in the first place. He used his sword to support himself in moving his body. When he swung his sword, he changed his center to his hand and moved the rest of his body upward to dodge the incoming mouth. He then landed on the centipede's back. He tried to attack the centipede's back, but it was too hard. He said, "Change of plan. We're going to weaken this thing first." "How?" Ayaka asked from the sky. "Cut its legs one by one until it can't move. Then we'll kill it." Focus your magic toward its legs, or you can come down here and help me bring down the centipede here. Ayaka nodded. She then dove down from the sky and charged toward the right legs. Seeing that, Kai immediately moved to the opposite and cut the left legs one by one. Scree. The centipede suddenly turned its body upside down. Both Ayaka and Kai were surprised to see how elastic the centipede's body was. They tried to attack its legs again, but its head had arrived in front of them. The head attacked Ayaka. Ayaka's sweat dropped. She immediately covered her body with her flame and made as many flame armor parts appear on her body. She looked like a female knight, covered in full body armor. The difference was that this armor was translucent red since it was made by fire. No, she can't block it. It's too strong to be blocked with that armor. Kai had a bad feeling when he looked at that armor. Although the armor was powerful, he had a feeling it couldn't block the centipede's bite. He channeled every ounce of his magic to his feet and made a single jump. He appeared in front of Ayaka in an instant. Remove your armor. She was utterly clueless about what he wanted to do. After all, she couldn't dodge this attack, so she intended to block it with her fire armor. But Kai suddenly appeared with godlike speed and told her to remove her armor. He never looked at her again, as he was too focused on the centipede in front of him. He made a magic circle, oscillation shield. This was his improved shield skill. He felt that something was wrong with this centipede. He didn't know what it was, but his instinct was tingling this entire time. The centipede bit his magic shield instead of Ayaka. Cake, Kai was struggling to maintain his shield. Ayaka was confused by this, but a crack suddenly appeared on Kai's magic shield. What Ayaka was surprised to see Kai's magic shield crack. She asked inwardly, "Is this his improved shield, or is it his normal shield?" She doubted, as she knew how powerful Kai's improved shield was. It was able to block the full blow of an A-rank magical ape that was known for its strength. But to think a centipede managed to crack it, it was unbelievable. However, she didn't have time to think about that. Without Kai giving her any instructions, she immediately hugged him from behind and pulled him out with her fire wings. Both of them managed to avoid death. She sucked a cold breath when she realized that bite alone would have crushed her armor and killed her. Scree, the centipede didn't attack them again. Instead, the centipede moved toward the ground and went back into the ground. When they saw the centipede go back into the ground, they let out a breath of relief. "We're safe," Ayaka said with an apparent tone of relief. She even forgot that she was still hugging Kai from behind. When she finally realized it after a moment, her face flushed red. She wanted to say something to Kai, but Kai suddenly pushed her to the side. Grumble, grumble. Kai picked up another sound from behind. The centipede wasn't running away, nor were they safe. The centipede came out of the ground and tried to strike them from behind. Kai indeed couldn't pinpoint the centipede when it was inside the ground, but the moment it came out of the ground, Kai could immediately recognize it. He pushed Ayaka aside and made a magic circle, oscillation shield, Scree. Even though Kai made his improved shield, the centipede didn't bite him. Instead, it head-butted the shield with its giant head. Boom. Because Kai couldn't fly, after he pushed Ayaka away, he started falling. And with the headbutt from the centipede, it gave him even more momentum. He finally crashed onto the ground at an incredible speed. Ack! He spat blood when he crashed onto the ground. Even though his front was protected, he couldn't protect his back without his magic power. But because he crashed onto the ground with such great momentum, even his magic power couldn't protect his body. "Kai, Ayaka!" shouted. She looked at the centipede that was charging toward Kai again with hatred. Scarlet explosion. She made a big explosion beside the centipede. She knew that her fire magic was ineffective to the centipede, but she didn't use this magic to hurt the centipede. Instead, she used the explosion to push the centipede away. Or at least, so its attack would miss Kai. Boom. The explosion appeared beside the centipede's head that was only 2 meters away from Kai. But because of Ayaka's scarlet explosion, the centipede that was charging toward Kai was pushed to the side a little bit. Although it couldn't completely blow the centipede away, it was enough to make the centipede miss. Seeing that it missed Kai because of the explosion, the centipede went back into the ground, planning to launch the same attack again. But Ayaka immediately dove to Kai and pulled him out of the ground. Unfortunately, Before they managed to get away, the centipede came out again and tried to strike them. At this particular time, Ayaka used her new skill. She said to Kai, who was clenching her hand as she flew, "Hold tight." Kai didn't know why she wanted him to hold tight, but he immediately held her hands tightly. A magic circle appeared on her feet. Boost. A small explosion suddenly appeared on her feet. Because of that explosion, she managed to get away from the centipede. The explosion gave her a boost on her momentum at the last second. After that, they didn't fight the centipede anymore as they continued to flee. This was Ayaka's decision, and Kai agreed with her decision as it was the most reasonable one. He then led them to a cliff. Kai had checked the cliff and confirmed that there were no monsters there. He wanted them to make a battle plan for later if they were to meet the centipede again, but inside they both hoped that they wouldn't meet it again. Chapter 27. Third round. After retreating to the cliff, Kai checked his surroundings to confirm that it was safe. After all, he didn't want another ambush to happen. It was enough for the 8 to ambush them. "Sorry, that was my fault. I shouldn't have let my guard down. I thought it was gone." "Leave that for later. The problem is what we should do about the centipede." "Yes," Ayaka nodded. "But is that centipede really a B-rank magical beast? It's even harder than the A-rank ape that we fought 2 weeks ago. Judging from its power, it should be a B-rank magical beast. But you've seen its movements. It can move its body like crazy, and it looks like the centipede can think of the best option to dodge or to attack us." Kai said. "What? Do you mean?" "Yes. The centipede seems to have gained intelligence." Kai nodded with a serious expression. Ayaka gasped when she heard that, but she felt something was wrong. The teacher said that this world is only for training, and the difficulty won't be too hard since the purpose of this world is to make us familiar with magical beasts. That's also what I was thinking. But no matter what, we've met that centipede. I don't know if others have also met that centipede or not, but our goal is still the same. It's to kill magical beasts, and the centipede is one of them. However, we have a second option, which is to avoid the centipede. But I don't think the centipede will let us do that, Kai told her. Then you want us to kill the centipede first? Kai nodded. Ayaka was confused. How can we do that? Do you know about seismic activity in geophysics? Kai asked. Ayaka had never heard that term before. She shook her head in confusion. To put it simply, it's a method to know about the ground's condition. We'll send a sound wave to the ground, and the wave will be reflected by the rock formation inside the ground. Before civilization overturned, this method was popular for searching for petroleum inside the ground. We'll dig the ground for a little bit, and I want you to make an explosion inside that ground. It should be possible with your magic. The sound waves emitted by the explosion will then be reflected by the rock formation inside the ground. The result will be received by a geophone. You can say it's a tool to receive that. But we don't have that tool. Wait, don't tell me. Ayaka realized Kai's plan. Yeah. My ear will be the substitute for the geophone. I should be able to locate the centipede. Kai nodded. This method is similar to using a radar. I've been thinking about this method for a while. I have the concept ready, but I haven't managed to succeed in doing it. You might already know this, but you should know that there's another reason why we have to have a scout in our party. We can just use something like radar, but the radio waves emitted from the radar will be picked up by the magical beasts. Before civilization overturned, it might be good to use a radar as the animals around might not notice it or be hostile to it. But after they evolved into magical beasts, their ferocity and senses evolved to an unprecedented level. Eventually, people realized that radars can be noticed by magical beasts. That's why they stopped using it. But I'm a sound magician. I've been researching this magic, and by using my ears as the receiver, I should be able to recreate something like radar without magical beasts noticing it. Kai explained his plan because he trusted her. He knew that Ayaka wasn't the type to blabber something like this. And even if she tells others about this, they wouldn't be able to use it, as Kai relied on his special ears when he made this incomplete magic. Well, it's still only a concept, so we're going back to a simpler but effective one, which is the concept of seismic in geophysics. We'll locate the centipede with it, Kai said. But what will we do if the centipede is out of our reach? We can ignore it for a while, but if the centipede is within our reach, we'll attack. After all, you also don't want to kill other magical beasts while constantly worrying about it. Right. Ayaka agreed with him on that. That's why we're going to kill the centipede. But even if we manage to locate it, how do we kill it? My fire is ineffective against it. Kai looked down when she said that, pondering over something. Not long after, Kai answered, I'll be the vanguard and you'll be the attacker. What? Ayaka was shocked beyond belief. Kai just told her that after she told him that her fire was ineffective, Kai raised his hand and made a stop sign. Let me explain it first. You can use that new skill, right? Ayaka didn't know why he asked that, but she nodded. We'll use that as our main offensive, Kai said. She contemplated why Kai said that. After a few seconds, she finally realized what Kai wanted from her new skill. You want me to use the new magic to boost my spear so it can penetrate the centipede's head? Kai nodded with a smile. Yeah, you're right. Do you think it's possible with your new skill? It is hard, you know. We won't know until we try, Ayaka said. Sure, but we should get down from the cliff first, Kai said while looking to the ground. The cliff height was around 60 meters tall or so Kai absolutely didn't want to descend with his magic alone. Sure, let me give you a ride, Ayaka nodded and stretched her hand. But she suddenly realized that they were going to hold hands. She then remembered that they were also holding hands when they were fleeing from the centipede. She didn't have any weird thoughts back then because of the situation, but she finally realized this, and her face became red. Kai only looked at her in confusion, as he didn't know what was inside her head and why she suddenly blushed. But she had offered her help, so she gritted her teeth and grabbed Kai's hand. After all, unlike Kai, who was unique, she was only a high school girl, Firewings. She tried her best to ignore it, as she immediately dragged Kai to the ground below. When he landed, he was wondering if he should kill the magical beasts nearby. After several considerations, he decided not to. They were going to move as soon as he located the centipede, and it wouldn't take too long. Thankfully, Kai needed to ponder a few things, and it gave her time to calm down. After Ayaka calmed down her flushed heart, she asked, We're going to dig the ground here. Yes, we don't need a big hole. 1 or 2 meters deep should be enough, Kai said. All right, Ayaka nodded. They already knew what tools to use to dig the ground. Obviously, it was their weapons. Ayaka used her spear to dig the soil, while Kai used his swords. As expected of weapons powered by magic, they could dig the ground easily. With just a minute, they got the hole they needed. After we locate the centipede, we'll immediately move, since this place might be swarmed by magical beasts. Ayaka nodded her head. Kai then retreated for about 10 meters from the hole. Actually, he wanted to move a bit further, but they might be too far to regroup. Kai then placed his ears on the ground. He looked at Ayaka and gave an okay sign to her. Ayaka nodded. Scarlet explosion. Boom. The explosion was heard from the small hole. Roar, roar. The magical beasts nearby were roaring. Ayaka was starting to tense up as she looked at Kai. After Ayaka used her skill, Kai could immediately picture the rock formation inside the ground, but he waited a little longer, as the one he heard was only the ground around him. The centipede wasn't around him. He continued to wait, as the sound waves kept coming back to him in succession. And with the centipede being that big, Kai could notice the disturbance because of its body. After around 2 seconds, he finally picked up the centipede's location. Kai immediately rose from the ground and ran toward Ayaka. We're going to fly east. The centipede is around 100 meters toward the east, Kai shouted. Fire wings. Ayaka immediately activated her fire wings after she heard that. Thinking about holding hands with Kai again made her blush, but she shook her head since they had no time to think about that. Kai grabbed her hand again, and they started to fly. There was another reason why Kai wanted to fly to the spot. It was because he didn't hear any sound from the sky. In other words, there were no magical beasts that would come their way. And soon, they arrived at the spot that Kai located. Use your explosion in that spot, Kai said while pointing at the ground. Ayaka nodded. She made a magic circle while diving down to put Kai down to the ground. Scarlet explosion, fly up. After the explosion, Kai immediately ordered her to fly up as he would become the bait for this centipede. And right after the explosion, the centipede finally crawled out of the ground and showed its mighty figure. Kai only smiled. Let's start the third round, shall we? Chapter 28. Another troublesome situation. Let's start the third round, shall we? Kai looked at the big centipede in front of him. Scree! The centipede immediately charged at him. Kai took a deep breath as he saw the incoming centipede. Since there were no obstacles, Kai avoided the centipede charge by dodging to the side. The centipede was going back into the ground again, but he wasn't in the same situation as before. As he needed to save Ayaka, Kai could hear where the centipede would appear again. Before the centipede came out of the ground, Kai turned around. He used the hole to track the centipede. Although Kai said it was hard to pinpoint the creature inside the ground, he could track them using the hole that led to the surface. He could vaguely sense its position with his ears. It was hard to sense, especially in a difficult battle like before. But this time, he wasn't pressured by the situation. The instant he turned his body around, the centipede also crawled out of the ground. The centipede immediately charged at him again, but Kai avoided it. It was pretty easy when he had gotten used to it. The centipede was using the same technique over and over again, and Kai avoided its charge every single time. Scree, the centipede was infuriated by his action. This time, the centipede didn't try to pummel him with its head. Instead, the centipede was trying to use its giant mouth to bite him. Kai had been waiting for this. The moment he saw the centipede charge toward him with its mouth open, he immediately made a magic circle. Oscillation shield. The centipede bit his oscillation shield again. It couldn't destroy Kai's shield that easily, so the centipede changed its strategy. The centipede then pushed him back with its large body. Even though it couldn't destroy Kai's shield, it could push him back to the big tree behind him. Kai was trying to fight back. Unfortunately, his power was nowhere enough to push the centipede away. With its giant body, it generated even more power than the ape back then. Boom, ack. Kai was pinned down to the tree. He started sweating as blood came out of his mouth. There was even a little crack on his shield. His shield couldn't stand the powerful bite of the centipede for more than a few seconds. But it was enough for him as his objective had been achieved. Ayaka. He shouted. Ayaka, who was flying in the air, immediately dove down with her fire wings. But that wasn't all. There was a magic circle behind her spear. It suddenly exploded, raising her speed even further. With that kind of speed, even her piercing power also increased. Boost. Ayaka aimed at the centipede's head. Die. Boom. With that high speed, the sound of her crashing on the centipede echoed throughout the forest. Scree, with her ambush, she managed to pierce the centipede's head completely. The centipede tried to struggle with its last breath. Unfortunately, it still failed to break Kai's shield. They finally killed the centipede. However, after killing that centipede, they didn't let their guard down, especially Ayaka, as she didn't want to repeat her mistake over and over again. She knew that with such a loud sound, the magical beasts nearby would hear it. Roar, roar, roar. And just right after, the roars from countless magical beasts nearby filled the forest. Ayaka immediately pulled out her spear and looked at Kai, nodded. Follow me. We'll start clearing them one by one. There's no need to fly, because the majority of magical beasts gathered at the place where Ayaka used her explosion to locate the centipede. The magical beasts around this place didn't amount to too much. Kai wanted to take advantage of that and started killing the magical beasts to rack up some points. Ayaka nodded her head. We'll engage them in close combat, but make sure you can use your magic at any moment, Kai said. Understood. They started moving around and killed the magical beasts one by one. With both of their strength, not one magical beast could stand in their way, especially not with their power as F to D rank magical beasts. They racked up a lot of points from them before moving toward the place where the magical beasts gathered. Kai could hear quite a large number of magical beasts near the hole they created to make the explosion, so he decided to go around and kill as many as possible to lessen their number. Ayaka would be the main attacker, and Kai would use his sound insulation room to make it more complete. After another 2 hours, they managed to kill another 100 magical beasts. Kai was leading her around to kill as many magical beasts as possible, but, as expected, their current score didn't come anywhere close to their previous one. Kai and Ayaka were puzzled, trying to come up with a plan to get some more points. Unfortunately, they didn't manage to come up with a way to get more points other than trying hard. Because they didn't experience the survival time after 6 hours inside the simulation world, they didn't know that that was how other people were able to get so many points. Kai and Ayaka kept trying until, at one point, they reached the time limit. They thought that they were going to be sent back after this survival hour ended. Highs, we only got barely 500 points. It's a shame that we can't even come close to our previous score, even though we stayed in this place for 6 hours. Anyway, we've tried our best, so whatever the result may be, we can only accept it. Ayaka finally relented. Kai nodded at her as he leaned on a tree. They were chatting while waiting for the time to end in a plane, but when they thought the time had ended, Kai suddenly said in a surprised look, "What the heck is going on, Kai?" Kai suddenly picked up so many sounds at once. He could sense that all of them were magical beasts. They suddenly appeared out of nowhere, and when he calculated their number, he just couldn't believe it. There were around 200 magical beasts suddenly appearing around them, and he didn't know why, but the magical beasts were charging toward their position. "We have an emergency. We need to fly now," Kai shouted. "Roar, roar, ow, ooh." Finally, numerous roars and howls immediately filled the entire forest. Even Ayaka could hear the roars and howls coming from nearby. The beasts were moving toward their position. Firewings, Ayaka immediately used her skill, Roar. The first monster that arrived was a huge boar. It was a 2-meter tall boar. Kai immediately grabbed Ayaka's hand as she immediately activated her firewings and flew to the sky. They could see a tremendous number of magical beasts moving toward their position. And after they flew to the sky, the magical beasts looked at them. Ayaka tried to flee a little bit, but the magical beasts turned back and chased them. "Use your boost to go to that small hill. Although the hill isn't that tall and steep, we can take advantage of it to kill these magical beasts by using the height advantage." Kai pointed to a nearby hill. Just as he said, the hill's height was only around 50 meters, and it was not that steep to restrict the magical beast's movement, but at the very least, they would gain a slight advantage in fighting the magical beasts. Kai made this decision after he confirmed that the magical beasts were somehow able to know where they were and would continue to chase them. Because of that, he decided to confront the magical beasts. "It's killing time. We'll be able to get quite some points from this. Drop me at the bottom of the hill and cover me from the top with your skill," Kai instructed. "But you'll be swarmed by the magical beasts. I'll keep retreating as I kill the magical beasts, and by using the terrain advantage, they won't be able to swarm me that easily. Your Scarlet Explosion will be our main firepower here. Although we can just keep flying around while killing these magical beasts, I doubt your magic power will be able to hold on. After all, we've been flying for quite a while. I can kill all of them from the sky." Ayaka paused a little. Probably, she'd used around half of her magic power, and Kai should also be in a similar state. If she kept flying like this while bombarding them with her magic, she would be exhausted before she knew it. Ayaka knew about that, so she didn't have any reason to reject Kai's suggestion. "All right, but are you sure you can hold them off?" Before she could finish her words, she suddenly felt something dark from Kai. She thought, that is that killing intent. She was worried about him. She remembered the last time they got swarmed like this. Kai was forced to use that double-edged skill. She didn't want him to use that again. Although he had promised her not to use that skill, in this situation she couldn't help but picture it happening. Kai was still focused on the magical beasts, but he knew from the change of her heartbeat that she was worried about him, and the reason for her worries was obvious. "Don't worry, I promised you, and I'm not someone who will break my promise that easily. But since we're fighting so many magical beasts, it seems that I'll need to get serious a little bit," Kai said as he let out a new kind of fierceness. Ayaka was startled when she saw this. She felt like she was looking at a ferocious beast instead of Kai. She ultimately agreed to let Kai fight alone. She would support him as much as she could. She dropped Kai on the bottom of the hill and immediately flew to the top. Because she used her boost for them to escape, there was still a bit of distance from the magical beasts. Kai clenched his swords tightly as his eyes became sharp. Chapter 29. Last fight. Kai looked at the monsters while clenching his swords. Ayaka was also in her position. There were around 100 magical beasts in front of him, ranging from small to big, and more would come. But because of their size, Kai only targeted the small ones and let the big ones stampede the hill. That way, they would provide help for him by blocking the smaller magical beasts. After confirming his targets, he started moving toward the magical beasts a little bit to face them head-on. 3 swift tigers charged toward him. A big bear followed right behind them, along with the rest of the magical beasts. The tigers jumped toward him, trying to bite him. When Kai saw this, he moved to the right as he waved his swords. Suddenly, Kai's swords moved at breakneck speed, and before they knew it, the tiger on the right was split into 3 by his swords. Ayaka was shocked to see how fast Kai's swords were. She had seen how fast his usual swing was. It was nothing compared to what he did just now, and she believed that if she were to face it, she would only be able to barely block it. However, she felt something wrong with his swing. Even though his speed was truly magnificent, she felt that it wasn't his speed. She didn't know why, but she recalled their first practice class, where Kai could throw such a giant ape toward her. She didn't think about it again after that, but this situation reminded her of that. She realized that it wasn't that he was fast, it was that he was strong. He forcefully used his strength to boost his speed for that swing, and the answer immediately came to her. After the other tigers missed their target, they immediately jumped toward Kai again. Kai's objective was to kill one of them, and he had achieved it. The moment they came again, Kai didn't avoid them. Instead, he used his sword and cut the tiger from its head to its tail with his strength. After that, he immediately kicked the last tiger toward the horde. He aimed it at a 2-meter-tall gorilla. When the gorilla collided with the tiger, it immediately rolled back along with the tiger before being stomped to death by a huge rhinoceros. The rhinoceros was 20 meters in height alone, and with its giant body, this rhinoceros felt unstoppable. Luckily, it moved slowly. If not, Kai and Ayaka would be in trouble. They had seen this rhinoceros when they flew toward this place. And it was because of this rhinoceros that Kai made his decision to kill them here. Because this place was the farthest from the rhinoceros, and when the rhinoceros came to this place, it would be in the farthest back. After taking care of the tigers, Kai immediately retreated a bit and entered the hill. His next opponents were 3 horses. Although their size was no different than an ordinary horse's, there were 2 big and sharp horns on their heads. Kai needed to be careful not to be impaled by those horns. He kept retreating, trying to bait the horses into the hill. He baited them inside because he saw Ayaka use her skill. He kept retreating bit by bit before he heard firebirds. At that moment, he finally stopped on his tracks and used his sword to repel the horses. It wasn't like he blew them away, he just made them stop so they wouldn't be able to avoid Ayaka's skill. Boom, boom, boom. When Ayaka's magic came, the firebirds immediately bombarded them like crazy. When the smoke from the explosion was cleared, they could see the horses charred black. Of course, Kai didn't have the time to enjoy the view. After Ayaka killed the horses, the big black bear arrived in front of Kai and sent a paw toward him. Ayaka couldn't use her skill to shield Kai from this bear. Kai avoided it. The bear tried to attack him again with his other paw, but before the bear could fully swing, Kai leaped toward the bear and sent a kick with his full strength. Because of the uneven ground, the bear lost its balance and rolled back to the bottom. The bear even dragged the magical beasts on its way back toward the bottom. They tried to get up, but the rhinoceros arrived and stomped them to death. Kai looked at Ayaka. "Send those big guys to that rhinoceros. I'll take care of all the smaller beasts." Ayaka nodded. Kai wanted to send all the big magical beasts toward the biggest magical beast, the rhinoceros, and let the rhinoceros stomp them to death. Boom, boom, boom. A series of explosions continued resounding throughout the hill as Ayaka tried to knock the beasts one by one. Meanwhile, Kai was like a killing god as he continued mowing the smaller beasts down. Ayaka was dumbstruck by his strength, especially with his fighting prowess just now. He was like a fierce beast, killing the other beasts around and showing them who the king was. Sadly, she didn't have time for that. She decided to talk about it after they finished the ordeal. She continued to send as many beasts to the rhinoceros as she could before the rhinoceros arrived at the top. Even Kai would have them retreated. There was another reason why Kai chose this place. Because it was outside the magical beast's encirclement, they only needed to worry about one direction as the magical beasts would charge at them head-on. Kai and Ayaka had switched roles, as Ayaka usually became the vanguard as well as the attacker. In contrast, Kai became the scout and support, but this time, Kai became the vanguard and main attacker as he kept killing the magical beasts one by one. Meanwhile, Ayaka became the support as she kept blowing the magical beasts away from him toward the rhinoceros so that it would stomp them to the death for easy kills. There were around 30 magical beasts left. However, those magical beasts had arrived at the top, forcing Ayaka and Kai to fight on the top of the hill. Even the rhinoceros was rushing toward the top. Ayaka, judging from the distance, you should take care of the rhinoceros as it has served its purpose. Although the rhinoceros is big, it has no speed, so it'll be an easy kill for you. I'll take care of these other magical beasts, Kai said. Ayaka nodded. Fire wings. As the battle would end soon, she immediately activated her fire wings and flew toward the rhinoceros. Kai also started killing the other magical beasts. A few minutes later, Ayaka and Kai sat on the top of the hill, leaning on each other's backs. Both of them were tired, and their magic power was almost fully depleted. Ayaka laughed. Haha, to think we managed to defeat all of them. By the way, what kind of monstrous strength is it that you have? Kai didn't reply to her question. Is it something I shouldn't know? Noticing the awkward silence from Kai, she asked to confirm. Sorry. Kai only apologized. That's fine. We only met 3 weeks ago, so I shouldn't pry on your secrets. Well, we'll be partners for a year, so if the opportunity arrives, please tell me. All right, I'll try. Kai was unsure of whether he could say it to her within a year. There was a much bigger secret to that strength. Are there any monsters around? If not, I should recover first, she asked. She decided not to talk about that topic again, as Kai seemed to want to avoid that topic. There's no mo. Holy shit. Before he could finish his word, Kai let out a curse. He suddenly picked up lots of sounds around them just he did before. But this time, the number was even more ridiculous. There seemed to be around 500 of them. However, Ayaka and Kai didn't have that much magic power left. What happened? Ayaka was confused to hear him cursing. 500 magical beasts. 500 what? Ayaka asked, as her jaw dropped because of the shock. She didn't have that much magic power left, and the situation turned for the worse. But there was another matter that concerned her. She said, Kai, you promised me that you won't use that technique again, right? Koi paused a bit before he answered, Yes, don't break that promise, okay. After getting into this situation, she suddenly recalled the matter of Kai sacrificing himself, so she immediately reminded him again. Kai also understood her worry. It moved his heart a little bit. It was only a small matter since he wouldn't die in the real world if he were to use that skill here, and if he really used that skill, they would be able to get a huge amount of points and might even surpass their previous score. However, Ayaka chose to abandon that and prioritized him first. She was thinking about him first before anything else. If she was the Ayaka a few weeks ago, she might have even been the one to suggest using it first. Kai noticed her growth these past few weeks and was pleased with it. He smiled. I know I'm sorry if I made you worry. Don't worry, I won't use it again since I promised you not to. Since you won't use it, it's good then. I'd rather have a low score than have you do that again, she told. Well, thank you. Remember the first time we met? Yes. The you, at that time, might even send me to my death in this situation. After all, dying here doesn't mean actual death. No way. There's no way I would. Sorry, I'm just messing with you. Look, they're here, Kai said with a chuckle as he and Ayaka could see that the monsters had surrounded the hill. Roar, roar, roar. Can you stand up? Yes. Both of them rose from the ground as they were still leaning their backs to each other. In our condition, we should kill as many as we can. I'll go this way, and you go the opposite way. There is no need for a strategy this time, Ayaka said. I was thinking the exact same thing. Kai nodded. Ayaka smiled as she said, Let's go. Yeah. Both of them then jumped toward their respective directions. Chapter 30. Conspiracy. Kai and Ayaka finally came back to reality. They looked at each other and chuckled. Haha, that last one was tough. If only we had saved our energy a little bit more, we might have been able to kill so many more, Ayaka said while laughing. She was satisfied with their performance. Well, that was our first time challenging that world, so that result is good enough, Kai said. S, 0A, 0B, 2C, 32D, 58E, 91F, 431. Let me calculate it for a bit. We got 341 points this time. We're only 100 points short of our previous score. Not bad, I guess, since you didn't use that technique. Well, you promised me about that. So, It's my fault we failed to reach our previous score, Ayaka said. Kai shook his head. No one is at fault. We're a team, so if you say that you're at fault, then both of us are at fault as a team. Ayaka only smiled in response as she relented. Yeah, this is no one's fault. Let's go out, Kai said. Sure. They opened the tube and saw that many people had come out. Katsuragi Takaki was already out too. He was glaring at them. Kai only ignored him as he walked toward Shirotsuka Sanae together with Ayaka. Your score is 1341 points. Wait, how did you guys get 2 B-rank beasts? Sanae suddenly felt something wrong when she calculated their points. What do you mean, teacher? Ayaka asked. I mean, the world itself only has 1 B-rank magical beast. Oh wait, there's another one. Don't tell me, you also killed that huge centipede. Sanae looked at them with a shocked expression that rarely appeared on her face. Yeah, that centipede was really tough. We almost died when we faced it. Ayaka nodded her head. You really did? Sanae facepalmed. Teacher, is there something wrong with that centipede? Kai asked. Sanae then looked toward the others first before telling them. After all, she couldn't afford the others to hear their conversation. This practice world contained 2 B-rank magical beasts as the strongest magical beasts. But the second magical beast is only supposed to appear in your final exam. We programmed it so that the centipede will appear at that time and not naturally appear, she said, as she didn't know how the centipede could appear at this time, and only at their place. The centipede suddenly crawled out of the ground and attacked us. This centipede gave us more trouble than the A-rank ape. Is there something special about this centipede, teacher? Ayaka asked. Ayaka and Kai already suspected that the centipede had already unlocked its intelligence, but they still wanted to confirm it with Sanae. Sigh, the centipede has unlocked its intelligence. So the final exam for the first years is to fight an intelligent magical beast. But I still can't understand why the centipede suddenly came out. All of them were in deep thoughts. But suddenly, Kai was shocked. Ah! He realized something. Ayaka and Sanae looked at him. Kai scratched his cheek as he said embarrassedly, It seems that I was the cause. What do you mean? Ayaka asked. I mean, the centipede can't hear, but it can feel vibrations, and the 2 antennas will give the centipede the intensity and the direction of the sound. And I think the centipede didn't need more than that. Well, I think that's the most plausible reason as to why the centipede suddenly came out, Kai explained. Ayaka opened her mouth in shock. She remembered Kai used his special melody continuously so they could ambush the magical beasts one after another, and that gave the centipede their direction. She remembered about the seismic concept that Kai explained. Kai could even locate the centipede with that vibration, and the centipede was a magical beast. It wasn't a normal centipede. In other words, the centipede had enough ability to locate Kai through that vibration. Kai was also wondering whether he could use his new magic when he arrived out there. After all, it might even cause them problems. He was thinking about adjusting some concepts so it could only be picked up by him. And of course, without those kinds of vibrations, he should be able to come up with something in a week since the skill was almost complete. As long as he adjusted it a little bit, the magic should be complete. It would be very handy if he had something like that in the outside world. Of course, he wouldn't rely on it completely. He would always double-check it with his actual hearing. The magic only simplified his hearing and allowed his teammates to see it. Well, it was a good fight. I don't regret fighting it, Ayaka shrugged. Kai only smiled at her. You too? Sanae could only shake her head. She sighed and her face reverted to her uninterested expression. All right, since both of you have finished, you two can leave. I need to score the other students. Kai and Ayaka looked at each other and smiled. This teacher was truly unique. Well, they didn't have anything to do here, so they finally went back to their respective homes. When Kai arrived at his home, Tasha suddenly walked up to him. Let's talk outside, she whispered to his ears. Kai nodded his head and came outside. The result of my investigation this week is only one word. They didn't leave any traces behind, she told. What did you find? Kai asked North. Kai contemplated a bit before he suddenly frowned. Does North ring a bell to you? Kai pondered a bit more. He then said, I don't know whether they're related or not, but a few weeks ago, there was this transfer student. His name is Katsuragi Takaki. Katsuragi, don't tell me. Is he that Katsuragi? The Katsuragi family that rules over the north, that big family. She looked at Kai in shock. Kai only said, "Well, I can only think of that. After all, he should be from the north, and with his family circumstances, he would have no need to come to this place and enroll at Genesis Magical Academy. He claimed to be Ayaka's fiancé, too." She frowned. This is suspicious. Considering how big the Katsuragi family is, he wouldn't need to go all the way here, since there are also a few schools at the level of Genesis Magical Academy there. And that fiancé part is also a bit suspicious to me. I know that Kudo Group's background was huge, but I don't think that they stretched their hand to the north. I wonder how this fiancé thing suddenly came to be. I smell a conspiracy. Kai was also troubled about this. After all, the timing was just perfect. How about we go to the north to investigate? Tasha asked Wei. You mean I'll go too? Of course, Tasha replied shortly. Kai was surprised that she invited him. I mean, I'd be glad if you could join me. I'm happy to have you by my side. Of course, that's my personal feeling. But I also want to borrow your hearing ability, since it might be more useful than my space ability for this, Tasha said honestly. Okay then, Kai nodded. He also thought that it was also like what she said. His hearing might be even more useful to hear what's outside or when they infiltrated their base. So he accepted her invitation. Yes. Tasha was really happy to see that Kai accepted her invitation. Of course, other than the investigation, she also wanted to spend some time together with him. But how about school? Kai asked. Don't worry, I'll take care of it, she replied hurriedly. Tasha seemed strangely a bit more energetic than usual. Kai only shook his head and sighed. He then went inside while Tasha finished her own thing. The next day, Tasha immediately finished asking for leave from the school. She even managed to convince their parents with bullshit just for this. She came to Kai and gave him an airplane ticket. Although it might be more convenient to teleport, it was a bit far. Teleporting to faraway places would be tiring for Tasha, so they decided to go by plane. Of course, under the guise that they were a couple. The plane was unlike the usual passenger planes before humanity was overturned. Although the design was similar, the plane was already reinforced with magic, so they could arrive faster. And each flight usually had a soldier to make sure that there would be no problem inside and outside. After all, there might be a flying magical beast outside, or a magician inside. The soldier's job was to protect every passenger in case something happens. The next Monday, school started once again, and the students went into the class. Surprisingly, Ayaka didn't find Kai. Even when the teacher came, Kai didn't come to school. Katsuragi Takaki tried to take this opportunity to sit beside Ayaka. Unfortunately, she rejected him. He even sat on Kai's seat forcefully, which made Ayaka move to whichever seat was available. She somehow had this repulsive feeling against him and wanted to avoid him. All right, we'll start our class, Sanai said. Ayaka suddenly raised her hand. Teacher, where's Kai Carter? No need to mind him. It seems that he has a family trip he's in. Sapporo Okadama Airport. Tasha wore a green shirt with a long white skirt. She was wearing a pair of sunglasses while holding Kai's hand. Kai wore a long-sleeve shirt and a pair of long white pants. He was carrying their baggage on his other hand. They were like a couple that was on vacation. Welcome to Sapporo Okadama Airport. We hope you'll enjoy your stay. Chapter 31. Love in a Hotel. Tasha and Kai finally put their luggage down. At first, the hotel staff were surprised since they were only students but only booked one hotel room. However, after giving their identity for a little bit and saying some random bullshit like they were on a mission or whatever, the hotel staff finally believed them. Of course, all of that was the hard work of Tasha. Luckily, even though they were staying in one room, they had 2 single beds rather than 1 double bed. This way, Kai could protect himself if anything happened. Kai immediately checked their surroundings to see whether they were under surveillance or not. Tasha also tried to check the room for hidden cameras. Even though they might look a bit paranoid since they weren't spies, they needed to do this. It wouldn't do them any good if they got caught without even getting the chance to start their investigation. After checking the hotel room, they looked at each other. Both of them shook their heads at the same time and finally felt relieved. Looks like we're good, Kai said. Yeah, well, we've settled everything, and the sun is setting. Let's start the investigation tomorrow. I'm sure it'll only take 1 or 2 days since you'll have your first class in the outside world. I don't want to give you a spoiler, but it shouldn't be that dangerous. Kai twitched his eyebrows. You just raised a flag for your own brother. You know, Heis, I'm probably going to get bad luck in a few days. There's no way that'll happen. Those things only happen in stories, Tasha said. Kai shrugged his shoulders. The next day, Kai and Tasha went out of the hotel. Tasha was having fun dragging Kai from place to place. They were like a couple going on a date. Of course, even though they were going around like that, Kai and Tasha were actually investigating the area. They were always in a 5-kilometer radius from the Katsuragi house. It was also because of Kai's detection range. If they went past that range, it was simply useless, as Kai wouldn't hear anything. There was another reason why they didn't immediately go closer to the Katsuragi house. They wanted to make sure that no one was following them, as well as check whether the Katsuragi family knew they were coming. Of course, Tasha also used this time to go shopping for various things from clothes to souvenirs for their parents, as well as using it to make memories with Kai. They finally came back to the hotel at 9 p.m. since they had achieved their objective. Not to mention, investigating past this hour might raise their suspicion. As soon as they came inside their room, Kai's and Tasha's expression became serious. Their expressions were nowhere like when they were going around as though they were having a date. Did you find anything? I don't know, but there's one thing that's bothering me, Kai told her. Oh, Tasha frowned. I just felt that there's a huge basement under the Katsuragi family's house, but because it was underground, I couldn't completely capture what was in there. If Ayaka is around, I can ask her to make an explosion. And if I can make a big enough sound insulation room, I should be able to capture it more accurately. Kai sighed. But when he turned to look at Tasha, she was pouting. So, I've been trying to avoid this topic, but since you're bringing it up, I'm going to ask you. Which step are you already in with her? Kai was surprised he just gave her an honest input, and this happened. We're just friends. Since we're classmates, partners for the practice classes, and have experienced various things, I think, yeah, we're friends. Well, she's also smart and easy to talk to. If she can mature up a little bit, she might be a partner that I can trust my back to no matter what. Awful. Tasha couldn't figure out whether she was a friend, a comrade, or a student. Kai said they were friends, but what they experienced together made them seem like comrades. And it seemed that Kai also gave her some pointers to get stronger. However, one thing came to her mind. If all of those were to be combined, they might just be one step away from being lovers. As long as they started falling in love with each other. Tasha's face became pale when she realized that. She never thought that they would have that much progress in less than a month. She asked with a hesitant tone. You don't love her, right? Love? Kai looked at her, confused. He thought about it for a little while. It wasn't like he was a person who could express or act on his feelings in an instant. He didn't want to have this conversation for the time being because something else was in his mind, so he was planning to confuse her. What is love, anyway? This time, it was Tasha who was surprised. Kai suddenly searched it on the internet. He typed, "What is love?" in the browser and clicked whatever it was. He sat on his bed and read the article. Tasha even came to his bed and read the article he was reading. It said, "What is love?" Most people agree that love implies strong feelings of affection. What kind of affection is that? Let me see. There are a few other possible definitions. First, a willingness to prioritize another's well-being or happiness above my own half, I think. I wouldn't prioritize her if my family is at stake, but if by prioritizing her, mom and dad will be fine, then it's fine, I guess. Second, extreme feelings of attachment, affection, and need. Attachment. What is this attachment all about? If it's talking about, if I need to choose someone to go to the outside world, I will bring her indeed, since she's a powerful person with a lot of potential. She also could absorb any advice easily. Well, I only compared her with my other classmates, which I don't know that much about. Third, dramatic, sudden feelings of attraction and respect. My feelings about her are something like this. I guess I truly respect her from the bottom of my heart. She has powerful strength and talent, but still wants to keep improving. The fourth is a choice to commit to helping, respecting, and caring for others. I will undoubtedly help her if we're surrounded by magical beasts, and I respect her. And from my experience, I've always taken care of her this entire time. Oh wait, no. such as in marriage or when having a child, eh? I don't understand why it suddenly came to this stage already. How can this article talk about marriage or having a child when someone just asked about love? Isn't it a bit too far? I'll put this definition aside for now. As for the last one, it's a combination of the above emotions combination, but they're talking about the same thing, I believe. It's about caring, respecting, and helping big sister. Am I falling in love with her? Kai asked innocently, trying to change the topic. The research, or whatever bullshit he said earlier, was just a distraction. But when he looked at her, she had already dropped her jaw and froze. Even when he shook her body, she still didn't move. Big sister. After a while, Tasha finally came back to life. She just got shocked out of her life, sigh. Tasha knew about Kai not believing in love at first sight, but it turned out that it was far worse than that. In fact, he clearly didn't understand love this entire time. She was stupid having not seen this earlier. In fact, this might be the reason why her advances never succeeded. Even after so many years of living together, she had never known about this. No, she had never known, because she was too afraid to hear Kai say that it was impossible for them. She continued teasing him while hoping that Kai's heart would be moved. Unfortunately, she finally realized that it didn't affect him. All her energy was drained when she heard this. She asked out of frustration, "Well, how about me? What do you think about me? You're my family. But we're not blood related because father and mother adopted me when I was small. You know that. If father and mother hadn't adopted me, would you love me as a woman?" Kai couldn't understand why she suddenly became like this. After all, when his parents adopted her, he was already 6 years old. No, I'll change my question. Is it possible for me? People say that marrying your own family is not good because it will affect their children. But we're not blood related. I don't know the answer to that question. But I do know that you're irreplaceable in my life. I already knew that from long ago, if you're gone, I might go insane. I don't know if this is love or not, though. Kai honestly answered her question. He didn't know if this was the best answer or not, but he needed to pretend for the time being. That is enough. That answer is enough for now. Ah, why didn't I realize this earlier? I was too scared. Don't you know, you were the one who gave me this life. Tasha suddenly hugged him from behind with a hoarse voice. Kai could feel that she was shaking. He could clearly feel her anxiety and fear. He didn't understand love. They said that if two people of opposite genders stayed in the same place for a long time, love might bud in their hearts. But Kai thought that must have been because they were in a comfort zone. Even if they were separated, there wouldn't be any dramatic drama like in those stories, and they might be fine not long after that. He thought that was the case, because they had been living together for a long time. But when he thought about losing Tasha, he didn't know why, but pain clutched his heart. This never happened when he was thinking about Ayaka. Whoa, he suddenly felt a strong force from behind, and it pulled him to the bed. Big sister, Fufu. He heard her soft voice from behind, and with his ears, he knew from her breathing that she fell asleep. He sighed helplessly. He stared at the air in front of him. He felt her warm embrace and thought, "Love, just wait a little bit more, all right? Though it's not like I hate being like this once in a while," Kai thought, as he also closed his eyes. Chapter 32. Ikeda Kenzo. The next day, Kai and Tasha were prepared to infiltrate the Katsuragi family. Kai had found a suspicious basement with quite a number of people inside. They didn't know if that basement was a storage basement or something else. But considering the image of the Katsuragi family in their heads, as well as the number of people Kai somehow heard, the basement might be that something else. So, they decided to infiltrate the basement by relying on Tasha's space magic, while Kai would be the one to show her the way. They tried to get close to that big mansion. Kai used his ears to their maximum, trying to get past any surveillance. Even though they were wearing large sunglasses and others, those weren't enough to disguise them. Kai wanted to confirm the basement matter once again before infiltrating it at night. However, when they walked toward the Katsuragi family's mansion, they met a certain old man. The old man had black hair with a portion of white on it. There was a sword mark stretching from just under the right eye toward the right side of his lips and ending just above his chin. Even though his white suit and warm expression made him appear like just a genial old man, they could feel the aura of a fighter inside him. Kai and Tasha knew who he was. His name was famous, and his achievements had reverberated throughout the entire United Asia. He was one of the S-rank magicians in United Asia, the Lightspeed Aikida Kenzo. They didn't expect to meet him in this place because his Aikida family wasn't from Hokkaido. Ikeda's family was in Akita. To think such a person came all the way to this place and walked around the Katsuragi family's mansion. This Katsuragi family was truly suspicious. Oya, I never thought I'd meet the famous Tasha Carter. The old man immediately saw through their disguise. Well, they didn't really put on an actual disguise since they were only pretending to be a couple that was going around the area. The old man then turned his head to Kai. I see, you must be Kai Carter. But when they realized he knew Kai, they were alarmed. Kai wasn't that famous since he was overshadowed by Tasha Carter. A few possibilities came to their minds. First, because he was the head of the Aikida family, he had investigated the other two S-rank magicians other than him and eventually found Kai's existence. The second was the Katsuragi family. I never thought that I would meet Ikeda's family head in this place. It's my pleasure to meet you, Tasha greeted. Ho ho, just call me old Kenzo. I'm just an ordinary old man passing by. Well, I was wondering what you two might want from this area. If I'm not mistaken, you two should be in school right now. Fufu, you must know that my brother will be going to the outside world this week, so I'm planning to buy some medicines from the Katsuragi family. I can't be free of worry if he isn't prepared enough, Tasha explained with a perfect excuse. But there should also be some good medicines in Tokyo. There is no need for you two to buy it from this place. Haha. It's true that there are also some good medicines in Tokyo, but the medicines from the Katsuragi family are the best, especially if they're prescribed according to my brother's body. That's why I'm even bringing him to this place. Oh, if that's the case, you two shouldn't have needed to loiter around this place yesterday, right? He asked while narrowing his eyes. Tasha and Kai caught off guard. They had been found out, but when they realized that the old man already disappeared, Kai was the fastest to react. He immediately pushed Tasha away and made his improved shield, Oscillation Shield. The moment he raised his shield, Ikeda Kenzo suddenly appeared in front of him while trying to kick him. His foot was already glowing with yellow light, KH. But because of the momentum, Kai could barely block his attack. Although there was no damage to him, the force of this attack alone managed to blow him away. Oh, what a talented young man. He could react to my attack even though that was his first time seeing it. How dare you? Tasha immediately charged at him. Her fist was covered with lightning as she threw her fist toward his face. A yellow magic circle appeared in front of Ikeda Kenzo's hand as he moved his hand, trying to block Tasha's fist. It was a magic shield. The lightning was rampaging the magic circle, but there were no signs of the magic shield even cracking. Ho ho, such power. If I were a tad late in putting up my magic shield, I wouldn't have been able to escape unscathed from that fist. Tasha grinned as a magic circle appeared beneath Kenzo's feet. It was a purple magic circle that clearly came from Tasha. Kenzo immediately realized what was going on. Lightning, charge, Ka. Lightning charged from Tasha's magic circle, trying to electrocute Kenzo. Boom. Kenzo could still move and destroyed the magic circle with his foot. But the explosion immediately alarmed the nearby people. Luckily, they weren't in an urban area as they couldn't see any houses around the street. When the smoke rose, Kai immediately regrouped with Tasha. He was in front while Tasha took out her bow. Kai suddenly turned his head as he heard a movement. It wasn't from the people around, but it was from Kenzo. Kenzo appeared at the spot that Kai turned to look at. He appeared unscathed from all of their attacks. They knew that Ikeda Kenzo's element was light. There was a rumor that he was very fast during the day, but he was weak at night. Although it was only a rumor, Kai and Tasha knew that they didn't have any chance to defeat Kenzo other than believing the rumor. However, there was something wrong. They didn't know why Ikeda Kenzo suddenly attacked them. After all, he shouldn't have a reason to do something like that, since his Ikeda family didn't have any relation with the Katsuragi family. I don't think your Ikeda family has anything to do with our Katsuragi family, do we? Kai asked while taking out his swords. This old man is already too old, but has yet to find a worthy successor for my family. So this old man has no choice other than prolonging this old life until my successor arrives. After all, I cannot just let all of my achievements that made my family rise go to waste just like that. The current successor is good, but nonetheless, the Ikeda family will decline in his hands. So I have no choice other than this. This old man apologizes, but if you two would be so kind as to go back to Tokyo nicely, this old man will be thankful. He said, Heh, so you're colluding with the Katsuragi family, Tasha snorted. Colluding? Well, it's not colluding. This is only a partnership between this old man and the Katsuragi family. Why are you so honest all of a sudden? Kai frowned. He tried to check whether he was lying or not through the sound of his heartbeat, and it seemed that he was not lying. It's a pity. Our world is already overturned by magical beasts, and you two are part of the younger generation with limitless potential, so I cannot bring myself to hurt you. So if you would be so kind, please leave Hokkaido and go back to Tokyo immediately. Do you really think that we'll just say yes and go back just like that? They dare to target my brother. I can't let this family go, Tasha said coldly. Oya, was there such a case I didn't know about, that still, this old man needs to force you to go back? And with our limited time thanks to that explosion, I can only end this fight early, he said. Ikeda Kenzo didn't care about the Katsuragi family. Instead, he loved the younger generation of this country. After all, they were the next generation that would lead the country in the future. However, because of his health condition, he could only follow their orders for his family. He also didn't want them to get caught in this place, and he didn't want to imagine what kind of thing those people would do to them if they were caught. So, he planned to end this fight as soon as possible and send them back to Tokyo. However, he also knew that Kai and Tasha had their own reasons for doing this. They could only fight earnestly for this. He pointed his finger toward them, and a magic circle appeared. The magic circle shot out a light beam toward Kai and Tasha. Light magic, shoot. Kai immediately raised his hand and made a magic shield. Oscillation shield. The beam tried to pierce his shield, but Kai suddenly deflected it to the sky. At the same time, Tasha had already pulled her bow. She made an arrow with her lightning magic and shot it toward Kenzo Lightning Piercer. The arrow flew at lightning speed. However, it seemed that the old man intended to destroy Tasha's attack. He pointed his finger and shot another beam toward Tasha's arrow. Light magic? Shoot, boom. Both attacks immediately exploded when they collided. Kai immediately charged toward him with his swords. He swung his sword toward the old man, but the old man suddenly disappeared. Kai immediately swung his other sword toward his back. The old man finally appeared behind him. Because of his light element, Ikeda Kenzo could move as fast as light. Of course, his body couldn't withstand the actual speed of light. If he could, he would be the strongest person in the world. Even Kai could still pick up his movement with his extraordinary hearing and react to it. However, when Kenzo saw this attack, he twisted his body a little and grabbed Kai's wrist as he threw a fist toward Kai Oscillation Shield. Boom! The fist pinned Kai's shield down. Even though Kenzo was already old, his fist was still packed with so much power. Even Kai's Oscillation Shield suddenly cracked. Seriously. Boy, I need you two to go back now. I'm sorry, but we can't. And I've completed my objective, Kai smiled. He shouted, Big sister. I know. She clapped her hands as a large pink magic circle appeared on the ground. The magic circle covered all of them. Here we go. Kenzo was surprised as he couldn't avoid this one. Teleportation. The moment she activated it, they suddenly disappeared. Some people came to this place to check the explosion. After, unfortunately, they didn't find anything. Chapter 33. Back teleportation. Tasha teleported all of them to a deserted factory where the light was dim. Kai and Tasha found this place by chance. Kai didn't start attacking Ikeda Kenzo. Instead, he stopped and asked, I'm still confused. You act like a subordinate of the Katsuragi family, but at the same time, you act like you're not. Ho-ho, subordinate, you say. It is certainly wrong. I am not their subordinate, but you might be able to consider me as their partner at the moment, as I said earlier. After all, this relationship is only for benefit. I don't give a damn about their plan, but I still need to follow their plan because of this benefit, Kenzo briefly explained. So what is their plan? No comment. My family will be affected if I tell you. Why do you want us to go back to Tokyo? In fact, not only Tokyo. I want you to leave this United Asia. I don't care where you will go to, as long as you keep fighting magical beasts and try to make a better future. He said, "Leave United Asia." You say, Kai and Tasha frowned. "Yes. This place is soon going to be a battlefield." "What do you mean? I can't say anything more than that." Kenzo shook his head. "I don't know why they're targeting you, but I think that was not the will of the Katsuragi family. Targeting the younger brother of the famous Tasha Carter would be a big problem. I'm sure I would have also been notified if that were the case. I don't know why you suspect the Katsuragi family, but I think this situation is not because of this family," Kenzo said calmly. He knew about the Katsuragi family's plan concerning Kai Carter and Tasha Carter. After all, Tasha Carter was the key to their grand plan. They even sent their successor to seduce her, and he would need to do that by approaching her younger brother first. He thought it must be because of that sudden appearance they thought the matter was related to the Katsuragi family. Of course, he didn't know about the obsession of Katsuragi Takaki on Kudo Ayaka. If he knew about that as well as her relationship with Kai, he might understand why they thought that way. It was also the reason why Kai decided to say his name in front of Tasha. Kenzo was also put in a hard situation. He knew if Katsuragi Takaki failed to make Tasha Carter his, they would kill her. He loved to see every child of the next generation, especially talented ones like Tasha Carter and Kai Carter. After all, he knew that Tasha Carter at least had more potential than him. Kai Carter also had some sort of potential, but he only knew about him being a sound magician. Even though Kai seemed to be calm and collective, he still couldn't be compared to Tasha Carter. He didn't want them killed, so he decided to tell them to leave United Asia. Kai tried to see if he was lying or not, but he found nothing. Whether it was from his look or his heartbeat, everything was normal. He could even hear his muscles' vibrations. Usually, if a person were lying, there would be signs of such. "Kai, do you truly believe him?" Tasha whispered in a low voice. She didn't take away her eyes from Kenzo and didn't need to come to him. Even so, Kai could hear it easily with his ears. At this point, he didn't anymore. There was also a possibility that it came from here, but he didn't know Kai thought about it before nodding his head. At least, Kenzo didn't lie to them. Still, the Katsuragi family is truly suspicious. With your personality, why don't you just let us investigate them? If we find nothing, we'll quietly leave. I can guarantee you we won't be spotted, Kai said. I'm sorry, but I still can't. If you still want to play this game, then this old man will accompany you. Kenzo suddenly disappeared. Kai shifted the sword in his right hand a little, trying to intercept him. But before he managed to do it, Kenzo already appeared on his right, and his finger already clung to his neck. Kai was surprised at how fast he was. He was barely able to react. If he had experienced this technique even once before, he would be able to block it. But this was his first time experiencing it, and if Kenzo wanted to kill him, he would have already died. He thought that this old man would become slower if they were somewhere dark. Although this place wasn't that dark, it should still affect him. "Kai!" Tasha shouted as she clenched her bow. "Don't move," Kenzo said while pinching Kai's neck. "I don't want to kill you too. Please go back nicely." "Fine, we'll go back," Kai suddenly agreed. "Kai, are you sure?" Tasha was surprised by his decision. "Yes," Kai nodded with a serious expression. "I'll follow your decision then." Tasha didn't know why he agreed, but since the matter was concerning him, she decided to follow his decision. Kenzo finally released Kai's neck and retreated a few steps back. "But even if we want to go back right now, we don't have the plane tickets as we have yet to book them." Kai suddenly threw a joke that was out of character. Even Tasha was surprised by it. The old man was dumbfounded when he heard that. "Just book a ticket right now and go back." "But we're not from a wealthy family. If we book the plane right now, we'll get a high price," Kai said again. "You just buy it." Kenzo shouted in anger. Kai looked at his sister. "Do we have enough money?" Tasha didn't know why Kai was doing this, but she went along with him. "We don't." "Ugh, you brat. Just take my money and leave. Give me your identity number." 0004884395. Kai smiled as he said his ID. The old man immediately transferred a bit of money to them. "Shut up and take my money." He used the money to book 2 tickets for him and Tasha. "We'll be going then. Just go, you brat." Tasha used her teleportation magic so they could go back to the hotel before checking out. Meanwhile, the old man suddenly spat out blood. He was holding it this entire time, and Kai seemed to notice it too. That was why Kai did that. Kai had read about his biography too. He knew that Akira Kenzo was cheeky and often did things like that when he was young. After getting played by Kai, he wasn't mad. Instead, he seemed rather happy. He's that brat. He must have known about my condition and wanted to have his little revenge on me because I stopped their investigation. Luckily, there won't be any potential harm to me. If not, I would be mad. But his actions seem out of character. In fact, he acted like how I was when I was young. That brat must have read it somewhere. To think that I would taste my own medicine when I'm already at this age. I should let him taste a little pain when I meet him in the future. Well, I hope I won't meet him again though. The next time I see him will be the moment that Katsuragi starts his plan and conquer the entire United Asia. But still, it's pretty enjoyable to have someone like that in the family. The brat in the Akida family fears me, so they don't dare to act like that to me. Only a child would try to act playful to me unless they had been taught about those complicated things. Kenzo shook his head as he swept the blood on his mouth. He then came back to stroll around, as he felt that Kai wasn't someone who would easily break a promise. He then disappeared. The next day, Kai and Tasha had come back, and obviously it invited Ayaka's curiosity. When Ayaka arrived in class and saw Kai, she didn't say anything, but she kept staring at him. Because Kai came to school very early, he unknowingly got the seat back before Katsuragi Takaki took his seat. Katsuragi Takaki was hoping to sit together with Ayaka, but Ayaka always avoided him. It was a disastrous day for Ayaka, who needed to keep avoiding him. So when she saw that Kai came back, she was happy, but also a bit angry. As soon as she reached her former seat, she narrowed her eyes and kept staring at him. Kai had predicted this would happen, and her stare was also hurt. Fortunately, after considering Ayaka's personality, Kai had bought a present for her. He put it on the desk and pushed it toward her. Don't ask anything, please. Fine. Although I've been curious about it since I saw your parents in your house yesterday, even though the teacher said you were on a family trip, I won't ask any questions. And you came back at the perfect time. Perfect time. And what do you mean by seeing my parents at my house? Ayaka unconsciously blurted that out. She was just a bit curious as to where he went, and because of that, she tried to investigate it. But in her investigation, she found out that his parents were still there. You just came at the perfect time since today. We'll know who will be in our group later for the test in the outside world, Ayaka said, trying to change the topic. Just when he was going to ask about it, Shirotsuka Sanae came to the class. This will be your group in the upcoming test. Chapter 34. Group. This will be your group in the upcoming test. Kai and Ayaka were searching for their names. Kai Kata, Kuro Ayaka Fujino Chitose Carmina Elbera. They finally saw their names. It seemed to be for the sake of convenience, or maybe because their teacher was too lazy to divide them equally, but she just paired up two groups together even, though she was supposed to make a group of 5 for this event. Shirotsuka Sanae didn't have time for that. No, in fact, she didn't want to make time for that. Bullshitting would be easier than making a balanced group for her students. Ayaka and Kai were paired up with a group that had performed well in the party. But of course, they were nowhere compared to them. Kai also looked for George's name. Even though they didn't talk to each other that much, he was one of the first people he knew in this school. So at least he wanted to see who he was grouped up with. However, surprisingly, when he found George's group, he saw a name that made him frown. Inshov Tanas Georgi Ebenuma Sae Katsuragi Takaki Wada. Miyako Kai was dumbfounded when he saw that. He never expected that George and Katsuragi Takaki would be in the same group. Although his investigation this time didn't bring any results, he already knew that the Katsuragi family was suspicious. After all, there was no way that Akira Kenzo warned them and made them leave Hokkaido for no reason. Not just Hokkaido, but United Asia. They didn't know what the Katsuragi family was planning, but it also wouldn't be that easy to leave the entire region. The closest region from theirs was the US base. However, they needed to fly across the entire Pacific Ocean if they wanted to fly there safely. After all, various flying magical beasts would most likely intercept them and ruin their plan. The only way was to fly across the sea. At first, mankind tried to cross the sea, but to no avail. All of it was because they got intercepted by the magical beasts in the sea. It would be very costly if they were to try to fly toward the US base. Because of that, Kai and Tasha didn't tell their parents about this yet. Only special people could fly to another base. Although Kai and Tasha weren't scared by this incident, they were scared that something would happen to their parents. So Tasha tried to make some money to prepare themselves, at least enough money to get their parents away. Suddenly, George turned his head and looked at Kai. He gave him a thumbs up. Hey, you got yourself surrounded by beauties. Kai's eyebrows twitched. Fujino Chitose was a Japanese beauty, coupled with her black hair and black eyes. She had an elegant aura around her. Not only that, but she was also strong. According to the circulating information, she was one of the aces for the first-year students in the Kendo club. Her element was wind, and it complemented her fighting style very well. The other girl in his group was Carmina Elvera. She was half Filipino, half Japanese. Her ancestor fled from the Philippines to this place when the outbreak occurred and settled down. She had brown hair and crystal black eyes, as well as a graceful body. Although she was a C-rank magician, it seemed that her element was a rather unique one. She could control the plants around her. Kai didn't know much about her, but it seemed that she would be a perfect support for the team. Kai already got a role for all of them. He would be the scout and occasionally a vanguard to support in the battle. Ayaka would be the leader, since Kai felt that she was the most well-known person in the group. He didn't mind about it since he knew Ayaka had matured up. At least, she had matured enough not to make a stupid mistake in the outside world. Of course, he would step in if he had to. Fujino Chitose would be the vanguard or attacker since he thought that she would be perfect for the job. And lastly, Carmina Elvera would be the support. She should be able to support them in restricting the enemy with her plants. Kai looked at George for a while. He was hesitating, but ultimately he said in a low voice that only George could hear, "Be careful of Katsuragi Takaki." George was surprised to hear that. Although Kai might have a little friction with this Katsuragi Takaki, he shouldn't have told him something like that if that was the case. He felt something was wrong when he heard Kai mention his name. George only nodded his head while laughing. "Don't tell me you're worried about me. Wait, we're not that close." "Well, we know each other at the opening ceremony, so I guess we're sort of closer. Anyway, good luck to you too." He didn't take Kai's words seriously. He just thought that Kai hated Katsuragi Takaki because he kept pestering Ayaka. When Kai saw him like that, he could only shake his head. Well, he already warned him, so Kai decided not to care anymore. He then looked at Ayaka. "Ayaka, I think you should be the leader of this group," Kai said. "What? You're more capable than I am." Ayaka was dumbfounded when he asked her to be the leader. After all, Kai's ability was beyond hers, so she thought that he should be the leader. "Well, I don't know whether they'll believe me in the battle if I take the job, or maybe they'd want to be the leader. Anyway, I think you're the biggest person in our group. They should at least respect you with your status," Kai said. "What about you? You also have a big status. I mean, you're Tasha Carter's younger brother." "Nah. Although I'm Tasha Carter's, an S-rank magician's younger brother, unlike you, I'm only a D-rank magician. But you," Ayaka wanted to complain, but Kai stopped her. "Sometimes someone's rank is more important than their actual ability. Don't worry, if we're stuck, I'll take over. At that time, you should use your status to convince them," Kai said with a smile. She looked at him, frowning. After contemplating for a while, she nodded. "Fine, I'll be the leader. But you." Before she managed to convey another thing to him, Shirotsuka Sanae continued. "You might be confused as to why the group only consists of 4 people instead of 5. This is also for your growth. With one less person in your group, you'll feel more pressure and grow faster. It's certainly not because I was too lazy to make a balanced group for each of you," Shirotsuka Sanae explained with a poker face. She even told them her real reason that made the entire class twitch their eyebrows and curse in their heads. "Anyway, I'll tell you about the region where all of you will be deployed. We have practically almost conquered the entire South Korea and most of North Korea. And since this is your first practical mission, you'll go to an area that's considered safe. The front line is in the Mampa region, around China's border, and you'll be stationed in the Kangye region. Your mission is to kill the magical beasts that the soldiers on the front line had missed out on. Don't worry. I'll also try to observe each of you and save you if I need to. However, don't put any trust in me coming to your rescue. After all, that area is big, and only all of you will move around the area unless you meet any soldiers that are stationed around there. So, unless you can buy time long enough until I get there, do something by yourself. If you're wondering about the other classes, they also have this mission. However, they've been stationed in Hyangsan or Hyesan. Anyway, your task is just to scout around the area and kill the remaining magical beasts. Your exact position will be above Kangye Stadium. There's a mountain range area above this stadium, Shirotsuka-sanai explained while showing the map on the screen. She looked at the students that started getting anxious since they knew that they might die for real in the mission. Most of the magical beasts have been cleared, so you don't need to be that anxious. There will also be 2 other teachers that will join me in supervising you. However, what I want all of you to remember is never panic in any kind of situation. The moment you lose your cool, your chance of survival will decrease dramatically, Shirotsuka-sanae said with a serious expression. The students gulped down. Ayaka and Kai knew what they needed to do after school. They would immediately search for any information around the area. You'll be in this place for 3 days. Remember, there is no ranking in this mission. You only need to kill and survive. Shirotsuka-sanae shrugged her shoulders. That's all. You can discuss with your teammates right now and make your plans. After that, the students started gathering with their respective groups. It seemed that Shirotsuka-sanae made every group have at least 1 guy in it, and a group like George's had 2 guys in it, because all the groups already had 1 male. Kai then looked toward the 2 beauties in front of him. Ayaka then said without any reservation, "We'll start with an introduction first. Will that be all right with all of you?" Chapter 35, Idle Talk. I'm Fujino Chitose from the Kendo Club. I have confidence in my sword, the black-haired girl said. I'm her partner for each practical class. My name is Carmina Elvera. You can call me Carmina to make it simple. My name is Kudo Ayaka. You can call me Ayaka, Ayaka said before pointing her finger at Kai. He's Kai Kata. You might already know that he's my partner. And your boyfriend. Right, Fujino Chitose suddenly added, Wah. When Ayaka heard that, her face instantly became red. Wah. What are you saying? Chitose, you can't say that in front of her. It's rude. I mean, she's a Kudo. Carmina immediately corrected her. Ayaka froze when she heard that. She explained hurriedly with a weird smile. Please don't be like that. I'm just Class 1A's Kudo Ayaka, your classmate. There is nothing beyond that point. Both Fujino Chitose and Carmina Elvera were dumbfounded when they heard that, although they felt Ayaka was approachable, they never dared to approach her because of her family's status. In fact, Ayaka looked approachable because of Kai. Every time she talked to Kai, she looked like she was having fun. So, when they heard this, they were astonished. I'm just an ordinary student in this place, so I hope that you won't treat me like I'm someone special, Ayaka sincerely said. Fujino Chitose and Carmina looked at each other. The situation was filled with awkwardness. I'm a fire magician, I think. Attacking is my strongest strength, Ayaka said, trying to change the topic. Sound magician. I'm good at scouting. Kai introduced himself while giving a slight nod. I'm a wind magician. I can use the wind to roughly feel the enemy. In a fight, I can also use the wind to help me move. Because of this, I can be the vanguard, Fujino Chitose replied hurriedly, trying to get rid of the previous awkwardness. Plant magician, I can grow or manipulate plants nearby. My plants can restrict the enemy's movement. Can Miss Carmina grow plants strong enough to handle an attack from a magical beast? Kai suddenly asked. You don't need to call me Miss, just call me by my name. I mean, it will be awkward to say, Miss Carmina, please restrict that beast in battle when you can just say, Carmina, restrict that beast. No need to be polite. Well, Chitose is the one who taught me that, Carmina said with a chuckle. Kai nodded his head. You can call me Kai too. Anyway, can you do something like that? Yes, I can, Carmina nodded while looking at Kai. She asked, how about you? I mean, I haven't met a sound magician before, so I'm a bit curious. However, before Kai could even answer her, Ayaka already started explaining. He's a powerful magician. He has extraordinary hearing, so it'll be unlikely for us to get ambushed. He can make a sound insulation room, so we can ambush without getting noticed. And we can. Ayaka suddenly stopped when she noticed everyone's look around her. She then looked down with her face red as a tomato. She realized she was too excited. I see you two must be dating, Chitose suddenly said. Wah! No, no, no. Ayaka tried to deny it. However, her face said otherwise. Even when she was trying to deny it, she couldn't help but smile. She didn't know why, but she felt happy when people said that. You're too excited when you talk about him, and your expression when denying it is not convincing at all, Chitose said with a poker face. She then looked at Kai, who was still expressionless. You're not dating. Kai shook his head without any expressions. Ayaka somehow felt uneasy when she saw that. She screamed inwardly, I don't like you either. We're just partners. That's right. This must be the case. I just felt that they will steal my partner since Kai is very reliable. Wait, this is bad. How could I praise him again? Teach, boring. Oh, then, can I come to your house? No, at least let me meet your sister. I've been idolizing her for a few years. She's my inspiration, and I chose to enroll in this school because of her, Chitose requested. Well, you probably can. I'll try to contact her later, Kai said uninterestedly. Thank you so much. Chitose was so happy when she heard she could meet Tasha face to face. She even bowed to him while pumping her fist. Good for you, Chitose, Carmina said with a hollow smile. Can I tag along too? I'm a bit curious to see what kind of mansion an S-rank magician has. Ahem, maybe not in our house, Kai said while scratching his cheek. After all, it would be a bit awkward to let a stranger just come to his house as this was the first time they met. Well, fine. Just meeting my idol is enough for me. I've never dreamt of setting my foot upon an S-rank magician's house. It must be a huge mansion or even a castle, Chitose said, imagining a huge western castle. It's not even a mansion. It's just a normal family house. Kai shook his head and replied, I'll also come with you, Ayaka suddenly said with an embarrassed face. It took her all courage just to say that Kai only nodded at her. Anyway, let's go back to the topic. We need to discuss our plan for a little. First, we need a leader. Well, let's just have Ayaka be the leader since she's an A-rank magician. Yeah, I don't have any objections, Chitose nodded. Fufu Chitose and I are the reckless types. Even in our practice classes, we only went around and killed the magical beasts without any plan or whatsoever. So, having a leader would be a good idea. Carmina explained. Kai was astonished to hear that. He thought he would need to convince them a bit more before they agreed to have Ayaka as their leader, but to think it would be this easy, he immediately calmed himself down. Cough. Well, since there are no objections, Ayaka will be the leader for this group. Secondly, I need to confirm our position in this group first. My ability is useful for scouting, so I'll be the scout. Ayaka's fire magic is powerful, so she'll be our main attacker. Carmina will be our support to restrict the magical beasts or block an enemy attack. And Chitose will be our vanguard. I don't have any objections, Carmina nodded. I won't let any single magical beast get past me. Chitose nodded and pumped her fist on her chest. Do you have any words for us, leader? Kai turned to Ayaka and said with a teasing tone, Wah, you. Ayaka was startled by that. She quickly calmed down and said, Anyway, there's no requirement for us in this mission other than to survive, so we don't need to take any risks. Oh, by the way, how will we get to that place? Kai suddenly asked a question that no one could answer. Since no one could answer, Ayaka raised her hand and asked Shirotsuka Sanai, Teacher, how will we get there? Good question. We will go there by military aircraft and land at Changjin Aircraft Base. After that, the military will send us to the Kangye region with a helicopter. As for your group's mission, such as the area you need to search and so on, I'll hand it to you at a later date, Shirotsuka Sanaya explained. After that, Ayaka then said, Each of us should research the area first. With that, at least we'll have a basic idea about the region. We need to be careful, but not too tense. After all, this isn't like the practical class. If we die, then we'll die for real. I don't mean to pressure you, but please take note of that. Chitose and Carmina nodded. Chitose suddenly remembered something. Kai, I've been wanting to ask this, but since we didn't even know each other previously, I refrained myself. Teacher Shirotsuka Sanae told us that you wear noise-canceling headphones for medical reasons. May I know why? Kai immediately looked at her. He tried to see whether this girl had some ulterior motives. What? Chitose was confused when Kai just stared at her without saying anything. Kai only shook his head. He was trying to pressure her to see if she had any ulterior motives, but it seemed that she was just curious. However, Kai still didn't have any intention to answer it. After all, he was still confused by the Katsuragi family. He didn't know whether the one in front of him was a friend or an enemy. Ayaka was different. As Kai had known her before everything happened, he decided to lie. Nothing, my ears can pick electromagnetic waves, and that makes my ears hurt a lot. The headphones protect me from that. Ayaka was dumbfounded when she heard Kai's explanation. She wanted to ask why Kai lied to them. However, if they found out that Kai was lying, he would be scrutinized. She decided to ask him in private. Soon after, the school bell rang. When they heard that, Shirotsuka Sanae said without delay, "All right, you're free to go home." Chitose and Carmina looked at Kai with expectant looks, especially Chitose. Kai knew what they wanted, he said. "I'll call her first." Chapter 36. First meeting Carter family's house. It was a humble, modern family house. The house was designed to have a peaceful atmosphere. However, even with that design, it couldn't replace the tense atmosphere inside the house. 8 people were sitting in a living room. In front of them, there was a big white box that had a big cake in it. Kudo Ayaka, Fujino Chitose, and Carmina Elvera were sitting on a sofa, while Kai and Tasha were standing on the side. It seemed that their father had run away with whatever excuse he gave to his wife, Ayaka Carter. Ayaka Carter's face was full of smiles. Kai was sweating when he saw this situation. He didn't know why they were in this situation. An hour ago, Kai went outside for a while to call his sister. He opened his communication device and dialed her number. Not long after that, he heard his sister's voice. "What is it? It's rare for you to call me. You know about my practical test, right?" Kai asked. "Yeah, you'll go to Kangi region in 2 days. The student council is currently handling the paperwork, and that teacher really made groups of 4 for this class, which is supposed to have 5 people per group, just because she was lazy," Tasha explained. "Well, my teammates want to meet you because you're their idol." "Who suggested it? Was it Kudo Ayaka?" "No, she couldn't be the one to suggest it. Then it must be either Fujino Chitose or Carmina Elvera." How do you know my group members?" "It was Fujino Chitose who suggested it," Kai said with astonishment. "As I said earlier, the student council is handling the paperwork, so I've seen your group." "Well, I think I can make time for that. Although I've seen their profiles, I need to make sure whether they will be your teammates or just burdens," Tasha said righteously. In fact, she got the information by abusing her authority as one of the members of the student council. However, before Kai said anything, he could hear another voice in the communication line. "Tasha, who is it?" "Judging from your tone, it must be Kai. What's he talking about?" Kai recognized this voice, but he never expected that she would be there. "Sister, where are you right now?" "Hold on, Mom, I'm talking with Kai," Tasha shouted as their mother suddenly stole her communication device. Tasha tried to grab it back, but to no avail. It might be her motherly instinct that let her avoid Tasha's movement, or might be something else. She still effortlessly asked Kai, "What do you want, Kai, for you to suddenly call your sister like this?" "Nothing. My classmates just want to meet sister. And since they're also my teammates for the practical test in 2 days, so I thought it would be good to know better since it won't be anywhere similar to the practice class." "Oh, who are they, darling?" she asked. "Kudo Ayaka, Fujino Chitose, and Carmina Elvera." Kai answered honestly. Ayaka Carter's eyes were replaced with stars. She smirked. "Are you going to meet her in school later, or somewhere else?" "I don't know. It'll be up to elder sister," Kai said. "How about setting it in our house? I also want to see your future your teammates. But isn't sister busy right now? I mean, handling the paperwork and stuff. I thought it would be fine as long as they met her," Kai said confusedly. "Is she?" "She didn't say anything like that when she came back. She said she was frustrated because you would go for a picnics with 3 beauties. So she wanted to make several plans to intercept that. So just bring them home, okay?" Ayaka Carter explained. Kai was speechless when he heard that. He could even hear Tasha's complaining voice in the background. "This is an order from your mom, all right? You're bringing them here?" "Yes, Mom." He could only agree to his mother's overbearing tone. Kai could only shake his head as he went back to the classroom. He looked at Ayaka, who had a red face, confused. He tried to look at Fujino Chitose and Carmina Elvera to seek an answer. Fujino Chitose glanced at Ayaka first before looking at Kai. She shrugged her shoulders and said while glancing at Ayaka from time to time, like she was unsure whether she could say it or not. Well, Ayaka was curious, so she tried to eavesdrop on your conversation, but she was startled by the fact that we would go to your house. So, she called someone to buy a present. I don't know who she called though. No, that's not it. I just thought it would only be ethical for me to bring a present, since this would be my first time meeting the honorable uncle and auntie. Ayaka immediately denied, but the way she explained it was Kai could only sigh helplessly. Anyway, it's as you heard, we're going to my house, and don't expect anything since it's only a normal family house. I don't care. I only want to meet my idol, Fujino Chitose replied hurriedly. Carmina Elvera was reading something on her device, and her face became somehow tense. However, because of the situation, no one was paying attention to her. Well, I'll guide you there. We can go using my car. Ayaka suddenly suggested another solution proudly. And as she had investigated him when he had a family trip, she already knew his address. Looking at her, they thought they shouldn't decline her offer. Kai could see the butler with a white box in his hand. Young miss, this is the most expensive cake from the nearest store, since I didn't have enough time, as expected of an experienced butler. Ayaka only asked him a few minutes ago, but he already came back to this place with a box of cake. He was even ready to greet them. He opened the car door for them. And from their movements, Kai could see that Fujino Chitose seemed to be one from a wealthy family, as her movement was elegant. As for Carmina Elvera, she was acting crudely like him, so their families should be at the same level. After that, the butler immediately drove the car. As soon as they arrived at the Carter family's house, Fujino Chitose was surprised at how ordinary their house was. She thought that they would have at least a bigger house, as they had Tasha Carter, who was an S-rank magician. However, she already said that she didn't care, so she only followed Kai's lead. And surprisingly, before they were close to the gate, his mother, Ayaka Carter, suddenly came out of the house. Ah, so you three are Kai's teammates. Come in, she said with a cheerful tone. This isn't much, but please accept it. Ayaka became embarrassed when she was trying to give it to her. Oh, such a thoughtful young lady. What's your name? Ayaka. Kudo Ayaka. Nice to meet you. I am Ayaka Carter, Kai's mother. She introduced herself as she looked at her up and down. So this is Kai's partner for the practice classes. Alright, I approve. And her name is also Ayaka, so we'll have double Ayaka in the future. Sounds nice. When Ayaka realized what she meant, Ayaka blushed and tried to explain it to her. I'm not. I'm just Kai's classmate. And Kai has been taking care of me this whole time. Well, come in first. When they came in, they could see Tasha standing on the side. Fujino Chitose suddenly came to her. Whoa, I finally met my idol. I'm Fujino Chitose. I came to this school just to meet you. Yes. Thank you. Tasha smiled just to show her appreciation for Chitose's determination. If I'm not mistaken, you're from the Fujino house in Miyagi, right? Yes, I'm honored you know about us. Chitose was happy when she heard that. She never expected Tasha to know about her. Since Kai didn't need to worry about Chitose again, as she was occupied with her admiration for his sister, he then turned to the rest. And surprisingly, before anyone realized it, Ayaka was already in the kitchen with his mother to prepare the cake. And the most suspicious one was Carmina. Even though she appeared very calm while sitting on the couch, her heart was beating rapidly. Kai shook his head and thought, it must be because it was the first time she visited their house. After his mother felt satisfied with Ayaka, they came upstairs, specifically to his room. He thought this would be their original purpose, as he wanted to discuss it more openly with others. However, they didn't know why, but Tasha Carter also followed them to the room. But it seemed that no one was bothered by her presence. Kai shook his head helplessly as he took out a big map that showed the North Korea region. Well, the map was on the device, so it wasn't an actual paper map. As the map was from the internet, there was no further explanation, unlike a military map. They might have a bit of marking every now and then, and that showed their progress or something. Kai looked at Ayaka and the rest as he said, Now, the first objective has been completed, and my sister is here too. So, let's start talking about our mission, shall we? Chapter 37. Another hidden scheme. Let's start, shall we? Kai looked at Ayaka, who was the leader of the group, to start their small meeting. However, before she started, Tasha suddenly spoke. If you're talking about the Kangi region, I need to warn you about something. Although most of the magical beasts in that region have been killed by the soldiers there, that place is still close to China's border, where the current battlefield is. So, if somehow there are magical beasts that have fled from that border toward you, you shouldn't panic. Immediately retreat, and, if possible, inform your teacher straight away. Tasha explained while pointing at the map directly. Fujino, Chitose, and Carmina Elvera tensed up. If it was the past Ayaka, she would do the same. She was more mature now, so she asked, if we get attacked from the north, it'll be hard to escape through the woods. Kai and Tasha agreed with her. If it were Tasha, she would escape with teleportation. However, for Ayaka, she would escape using her fire wings and fly to the sky. It could be done if they were alone, however. Ayaka knew when she proposed this, they had two other comrades in this test. After hearing that, Fujino Chitose said, I have flying magic. In fact, this is my specialty. I'll take Carmina if we need to escape. Kai and Ayaka looked at her for a while and nodded their heads. Kai added, well, there's nothing wrong with being prepared, so no need to be tense. All right, let's move on to the Kanye region. Ayaka then pointed at the Kanye Stadium. We will be hunting magical beasts in the mountain area. We don't have any information about the base or the mission, so it's a bit hard to speculate on what course to choose. If you're talking about the base, the academy will set up a temporary base in the Kangi Stadium. A few soldiers will help the teachers in that base, Tasha said while looking away. As for why she knew that, it was obviously because she already covered up all the information she could get as a student council member. If she knew about the mission, she would also blurt it out even though she shouldn't do it. Unfortunately, the mission would be given by the soldiers on the scene. Sister, are you sure you're allowed to talk about that? Kai glanced at her. Of course I can. As long as no one knows, it'll be fine. Well, even if they do know, they'll only reprimand me a bit, that's all. She shrugged. Ayaka suddenly spoke. Anyway, we'll need to act according to the mission we get later. Well, first of all, I think by knowing what we can do, we'll be able to coordinate better as a group. Anyway, I'll start with mine. My fire magic. I can use 3 types of magic. The first one is movement. It can only increase my speed. The second type is flying. And last but not least, is my firepower. I'm confident that I can blast a powerful monster away. Even though she suggested this, she never said anything about the details about her power like what she did with Kai. After all, unlike the partner thing for the practice classes, this group was not fixed. In other words, they would have another group next month. To counter that, she decided to keep it as vague as possible while providing her teammates with the necessary information. Kai also explained his ability to help convince the others. I have extraordinary hearing. I can roughly hear the magical beasts around me, which is essentially the same as telling me their position. With that, we can set up an ambush for them or avoid them. Well, most of my skills are useful for scouting, so don't expect anything from me other than scouting, Kai said. Then it's my turn. My wind element is good for enhancing my maneuverability. That way, I can distract the magical beasts so that they won't get in your way. My wind magic can help me fly or give a jump boost for anyone around me. It's like a gust of wind from beneath your feet. I can also boost the power of my katana with my wind element, so I have confidence in my ability to be a vanguard, Fujino Chitose said with her usual confidence. After seeing that all of them had introduced themselves, Carmina also needed to explain her ability. My ability is plant magic. I can grow trees from the ground or help the trees grow. I can make them restrict the magical beasts. After introducing their abilities, they continued discussing their battle plans. When they finished their discussion in Kai's house, Chitose immediately called for her driver to pick them up, and as usual, she would go back together with Carmina and drop her in front of her house. It was just like their usual thing. Bye-bye. Carmina waved her hands while watching Chitose's car slowly drive away. When she couldn't see the car again, instead of coming inside, she looked at the highest building 4 blocks away from her position. She started walking toward that building. After a few minutes of walking, she finally arrived. And the one she met in front of that building was a silver-haired man. The silver-haired man smiled and stretched his hand toward her. Of course, she smiled and accepted his hand like it was a blessing. A few hours later, inside a hotel room, far away from the Carter family's house, there was a silver-haired man as well as a pink-haired woman on the bed. They were naked, while sweat covered all of their body. Takaki-sama, I don't mind about the position. As long as I can stay beside Takaki-sama, I'm satisfied. It turned out that the silver-haired man was Katsuragi Takaki, and the woman was Kai's teammate, Carmina Elvera. She even called Takaki with the honorific from Japanese tradition, because Takaki, as the young lord from a family that emphasized Japanese tradition, asked her to do so. She did this so she could get all the resources, as well as protection from the Katsuragi family. No, to be precise, she just wanted to live leisurely by leeching off the Katsuragi family. In fact, she received a message from Katsuragi Takaki. He was convincing her to become his spy, and meeting in this place was to seal the deal, haha. Of course, Katsuragi Takaki said smugly, foolish woman. It seems that they'll set up a base in Kangye Stadium then. Our group will be heading north, she told him. I'll have you bring a tracker with you. That way, I can keep track of your position. Yes, I'll do anything. But, what should I do with them? I need to kill Kai Kata in this test, Katsuragi Takaki said to show his sincerity. It was just to fool Carmina Elvera into believing he trusted her. And she believed that. She contemplated for a while before saying, today Tasha Kata said that region would be close to the front line, and even though the soldiers had been clearing that place of magical beasts, there's still a probability that the soldiers missed some magical beasts and entered that area. When he heard that, a smirk formed on Katsuragi Takaki's face. That's good. I'll ask my subordinates to lead some magical beasts, or a few powerful magical beasts to your position. But how about me? I'll also be attacked by the magical beasts, Carmina said with a pale face. Don't worry. You can just say you'll split up, or make him hold the fort while you call the teacher. That way, he'll die after getting rammed by the magical beasts, and you'll be safe, Katsuragi Takaki said proudly. As expected of Takaki-sama, only you could make a plan like that. I'll do my best to make sure he dies, Carmina assured Katsuragi. Takaki made a smug smile. Sadly, in reality, he was cursing Carmina in his heart. Foolish woman. You're not even worth shit, and you think you're special just because of this. You'll die along with that bastard. After that, I can slowly approach Ayaka and that bitch Tasha. I also need to hide this matter from my family. If that father of mine knows about this, he'll surely stop me. That greedy man surely wants to acquire that bastard, Kai too. I won't let anyone who dares to seduce my Ayaka live in Takaki-sama. She looked at him. Katsuragi Takaki smiled evilly as he grabbed Carmina's breast. Because of the population problem, they were allowed to have sex as soon as they reached high school. It was because the government knew how dangerous the outside world was. Since high school students who studied in the magical academy would go to the front lines, if they died at that place, it would be a considerable loss. Because of that, they allowed something like this, and it seemed that because of magic, humans were already in their prime the moment they reached high school, and they wouldn't have a problem if they became pregnant at such an age. In fact, that way, they could take a break for a year from the front lines. Well, to prepare their muscles and magic, high school students would need to be at least 17 years old. They continued doing their activities. Chapter 38. New Magic, New Terrorist. It was the day of the practical test. Kai was looking at a white military uniform, waiting to be put on. Since the camo-style military uniform was not effective against the magical beasts, they chose a white military uniform to replace it. There were two main reasons for that. First, it was so that nearby allies could recognize them, especially when they were in the forest or something, since the white color would stand out the most. As for the other reason, it was to differentiate the student and the current soldiers. When he put on his white uniform, he appeared more gallant and stylish. In fact, this was not like a soldier's uniform anymore. It looked like a military uniform for celebrations. At the same time, he heard the click on his door. He knew what would happen, so he threatened her. If you enter, I won't talk to you for a week. Kai knew Tasha was the one in front of his room. In fact, Tasha was ready to ambush him and take pictures of him. However, with Kai's threat, she didn't dare to do it, because she knew Kai was very serious about it. She could only sulk and go downstairs. His parents seemed to like the uniform too. Ultimately, they took a few photos. Of course, Tasha was the one who convinced them so she could have his picture and let her eyes have a feast. Well, with his parents joining the fray, Kai let them do what they wanted. After finishing his breakfast, he finally went to school. As soon as he arrived at school, he noticed that there were a few buses parked in front of the school. It wasn't only for their class, but also for the other classes of the first years. They were going to take them to the military airport before going to the Changjin aircraft base. After that, they would go toward the Kanye Stadium with choppers. He looked around and saw Ayaka in her new military uniform. Although the white military uniform wasn't that different from their usual white school uniform, it still gave them a different expression from their usual impression. The uniform was a bit tight, which exposed their body figures, and with Ayaka's nice figure, she stood out. Kai was slightly astonished. She also wore a short white tight skirt that was designed like a women's sports skirt so she could move easier. Kai, have you prepared? Ayaka came to him and asked with a smile. He nodded. It's all right. Well, I have a skill that can help us later, and I might use it constantly. So you'll know about it later. Oh, a new skill. I've been working on one, but I still can't quite wrap my finger around the concept. I want to make a delayed skill, she said. A delayed skill. The one where you plant it first before you can remotely activate it, or with timing? Kai asked. Yeah, I'm going with the timing. Although the timing is a bit hard, I think I'll be able to grasp the timing well with practice. At first, I wanted to make one that I would be able to control remotely, but it'd be a bit difficult since I won't be able to control it if I'm too far. Too far. If you're fine with me asking, what kind of skill do you want to make? I want to make a time bomb, she answered with a cheerful tone. A bright smile pasted on her face. Oi! Girl, you're dangerous. Kai twitched his eyebrows. He was wondering how she could say that with that kind of big smile, like she was happy with it. But I was thinking about making multiple time bombs. Well, I already made the concept with the time bomb, but every time one of them exploded, the nearby ones would also explode and make a chain of explosions. That's now how I wanted it to be. I mean, wouldn't it be much better if the magical beasts don't realize that I've planted another bomb there when the first bomb explodes? Ayaka explained. Kai contemplated for a bit before he realized what she wanted. You mean you want the first one to attract the magical beast's attention and the second one to kill the magical beasts? And since it's delayed magic, you don't need to be there. Yeah. That's what I want. Ayaka nodded her head rapidly. Kai shook his head helplessly. It was a good thing that this girl wasn't a terrorist. If not, she would be a problem with those kinds of thoughts. How about surrounding the skill with a shield magic circle? Kai thought for a while before voicing out his thoughts. I've tried that. The shield couldn't protect the magic circle inside, so it's useless as the shield would be broken and the magic bomb inside it will explode. Ayaka shook her head. Fire magic, huh? I'm not really good with fire, so I don't think I can help you with this, Kai said. No, it's fine. Talking about it with someone already motivated me. I'll just keep doing what I can. I've tried making a super magic shield, and it drained my magic power, even though I just used a few of them. So it's certainly not practical. And even when I tried to make it explode, the other one still also exploded from the inside. Exploded from the inside? Kai asked, slightly curious. Yeah, I concentrated the magic shield for it to block the force from the outside. That way, I'll be able to make a super magic shield that can withstand the explosion. I was inspired by your oscillation shields when I created this. After all, your shield only sent energy to where the shield was facing. Right? Indeed. Huh. How could it explode from the inside when the magic shield blocked the force from the outside? I don't know. I thought it was because of the vibrations, but it seems that I was wrong. I already tested it, and that didn't seem to be the case, Ayaka said. She too had been perplexed about this for quite a while. No, what I mean is, you're the problem. Me. Ayaka was dumbfounded when Kai said that. She thought that it was because she lacked talent, so she looked downcast. Seeing her expression, he explained hurriedly, your element, fire, generates heat. Especially for an explosion. Wouldn't the heat be the problem? Ayaka opened her mouth in surprise. Yeah, you're right. Why didn't I think of that? If it is really the problem, I'll just need to fix that. But how can I do it? Ayaka started pondering over the matter. Why don't you just make two shields? One to prevent the blast from outside and one for heat insulation. I don't understand the concept that good. If I'm not mistaken, it's about heat conductivity. I don't really know. Kai shrugged. Yeah, you're right. It's indeed heat conductivity. I can try to make it so the shield has a low heat conductivity. With that, the heat wouldn't be able to reach the magic circle. I can do this. I can do this, Kai. She became excited when she finally found the solution to her problem. Although she would need to try it before she could be sure that it would work, she could already picture the result. She unconsciously hugged Kai in her excitement. She didn't realize that many people were watching how she hugged Kai. And it was also the same for Katsuragi Takaki, who was in shock because of that hug. He never expected that Ayaka would hug Kai so excitedly. He was so jealous that he wanted to kill Kai immediately. He gnashed his teeth and snorted. Just you wait. Enjoy it while it lasts. I'll make sure you die painfully. He left the scene as he didn't want to see them acting intimately like that. As for Ayaka, she immediately blushed when she realized what she had done. Her face became redder than a tomato. She unconsciously grabbed Kai's hand and dragged him onto the bus. Since they had been informed about which bus they were supposed to be in, they knew which one was their bus. Ayaka sat on the window seat, so Kai would hide her well with his body. Unknowingly, she just convinced them that they had a relationship. Kai only sighed as he looked at her behaving like that. Well, he was accustomed to this kind of farce because of his elder sister, so he didn't care about it that much. However, he suddenly thought about her sudden hug. It was different from his sister, who always tried to hug him. It was a weird feeling for him, but he didn't feel repulsed by her hug. He decided to shake it off of his mind and forget about it. After an hour or so, all the students were finally on the bus, and they set off toward the military base. At the same time, Tasha was looking at a screen. Tasha, what are you doing in front of that screen? I mean, it has no purpose other than telling us if the first years have an emergency. Yajima Haruko, the president of the student council, suddenly came to her and asked as she didn't understand why Tasha was doing what she was doing. I want that to happen. That way, I can go to Kai's side, she grumbled. You shouldn't wish for something like that. They're still on the bus, they haven't arrived there yet. They might meet terrorists on their way, and maybe their buses might get hijacked, or they might be attacked by flying magical beasts, or Gah! Before she could finish her words, her head was hit by Haruko. That is enough. But Haruko ended up lecturing her for the whole day, and Tasha was sulking while looking at Kai's photo that she took earlier. Chapter 39. Bat. I'm Commander Zuko, the one who will be in charge of you for these 3 days starting tomorrow. I don't have anything to tell you other than your mission. Tomorrow, all of you will go there and kill every magical beast in sight. A muscular man pointed toward the mountain range in front of them. This muscular man had spiky brown hair, but the most fierce thing on his appearance was the scars on his face. There were 3 claw scars from his right eyes running through his nose to his left cheek. It made him appear very fierce. Behind him were a few soldiers and teachers, including Shirotsuka Sanae. When they looked at their teacher Shirotsuka Sanae, wearing a white military uniform, they felt that she was also a warrior, despite her usual attitude. The aura she gave them was fierce and cold. They didn't know why, but the uniform turned her nonchalant and lazy aura to a warrior's aura. And on the other side, around 30 students were standing for a morning briefing. After getting off the bus, they flew toward the military base with an aircraft carrier. But because of long procedures for the choppers to bring them to this stadium, they just arrived a few minutes ago and gathered here for a brief meeting. Anyway, what all of you will do is set up your own tents in this big field. If you want to take a bath or whatever, you can use the toilet in the stadium, but I don't recommend you to do that since most of the water has already been there for hundreds of years. So I don't think I need to explain. Well, you have a canal near this stadium and I've checked the water and it's good. Well, you can also ask a water magician to help you with that. If you're in the army, you might have already given away water without someone asking you to. But you're a student, so I'll understand if you hate your classmates or something and don't want to help them with it. It's all up to you. I, as the commander for this operation, won't care about that. Just take it as a punishment if you make your classmate an enemy. Anyway, we'll gather once more tomorrow morning, and you'll need to camp out there since you're not allowed to go back here unless there's an emergency. Good luck and disperse. You can ask your teachers where to get your tent." It was truly surprising that a strict-looking middle-aged man like him could even joke like that, especially considering how he was a military officer. After that, the students immediately ran toward their teacher, Shirotsuka Sanai, who only pointed her finger to the right. "You need to set up your own tent. One tent is enough for 2 people, and you can set it up together." When they heard that, the students were dumbfounded. A lot of students were complaining, especially those who had huge family backgrounds. They had been pampered their entire life. Even though they had been taught that they would have to be a soldier in the front lines and wouldn't get comfort when they were there, it was useless for those young people, especially those who loved that comfort zone. Of course, it didn't mean all of them were like that. A few students didn't complain and immediately grabbed their tent. They even asked their friends to set it up together. Ayaka was one of those people. She didn't complain or anything since she had prepared herself for this. She asked Kai to set it up together. Kai nodded, and they went to grab their tent together. But when they arrived, the soldier asked them, "Are you 2 in a group?" "Yes, we're group 3. The soldier who was in charge of distributing the tent nodded. He then gave them a tent. "A tent is for 2, so you'll need to share it." What? When Kai and Ayaka heard that, they were dumbfounded. "We only have 20 tents for 40 students, so yeah. Although you're a student, you're also a soldier on the front lines. Especially in a battle between life and death, there will be no social status or whatever. So now that you're on the front lines, it'll be obvious you are going to start from private. So you can't waste resources unless you're a captain or above," the soldier said nonchalantly. Ayaka was startled. She glanced at Kai while blushing. "I'm fine with sleeping anywhere. It'll only be for 3 days anyway, and maybe I can switch places with someone." Kai shrugged. Ayaka opened her mouth, wanting to say something. However, the words wouldn't come out of her mouth. Unfortunately, at this particular time, Katsuragi Takaki appeared out of nowhere. "Since you're not going to be with her, you can switch places with me." "No, I'll gladly give you my place." Katsuragi Takaki then turned to Ayaka and said, "I am a gentleman, so don't worry, I won't do anything." When Ayaka heard that, she felt a chill down her spine. She had this repulsive feeling, and she suddenly had the urge to grab Kai's hand. But if she needed to choose, she didn't need to think. She immediately chose Kai. With that thought in mind, she immediately stopped Kai by grabbing his hands. "Let's go." "I don't mind." "Oh, that's right. I need to tell you one more thing. You need to sleep together with your group, so changing places with someone from another group is a no-go," the soldier told them another rule. Katsuragi Takaki froze, not wanting to believe what he just heard. "You." However, when he was just about to complain, Ayaka already steeled her heart and dragged Kai somewhere. Katsuragi Takaki could only grit his teeth when he saw that Kai helped her set up the tent and met up with Fujino Chitose and Kamina Elvera. "Well, teacher wants us to make a rotation for the lookout. So Kai and I will be the first one, and after 4 hours, both of you will go next. How does that sound?" Chitose and Carmina nodded their heads. Kai then looked at Ayaka. "I'll be away for the time being." Ayaka tilted her head in confusion, but she ultimately nodded her head. Kai just felt uncomfortable in his heart. He didn't know why, but he felt uneasy when he came here. It was like his blood was riled up by something, but he didn't know what. So he wanted to go around the stadium to check if this was a false alarm or not. Kangi Stadium was big. However, because they were in the open, they didn't dare to light this building up, so they could barely see when night fell. When Kai went around inside the stadium, he was also barely able to see. The light from the flashlight alone wasn't enough. Still, it wasn't a problem for Kai, as he could use his hearing in this situation. Empty stands, broken chairs, pieces of glasses on the floor, and even dried blood on the floor that could not be swept away since there was no water around. Kai felt as though he was in a horror movie. Of course, it wasn't like he believed it, considering he was a magician with a different system from the poltergeist. He heard a few things around, but even if those were magical beasts, they should pose no problem to them, as they were the lowest and the weakest magical beasts. That could be ignored. After strolling around for almost an hour, Kai thought it was a false alarm, so he prepared to go back. However, he suddenly saw another light coming from in front of him. Kai immediately activated his sword while raising his flashlight to see what kind of creature was making such a light. The same applied to the opposite party. The other party suddenly raised the light and pointed at him. "Who are you?" both of them said at the same time. However, when they heard each other's voices, they were shocked and lowered their flashlights. "Teacher, you must be Kai Carter." It turned out that the light came from Shirotsuka Sanai's flashlight. Both of them felt relieved after knowing that the other party was someone they knew. She then came closer to Kai and asked, "What are you doing here? I just wanted to check something. I somehow get this uneasy feeling, so I thought I needed to check. I don't mean to boast, but this feeling is often correct." "How about you, teacher?" Kai explained as he lowered his sword. "I'm just patrolling around. Although this place has been checked, it still needs another checking." The other teachers also started checking this place to make sure that it's safe, Shirotsuka Sanai explained. "I see," Kai nodded. "Well, it seems like a false alarm to me. I've checked the entire stadium, but nothing has come my way. I noticed a few magical beasts, but they're not a threat as they're only the weakest magical beasts that can't injure us. You're still a student and a newbie. Let us, the professionals, do that, since you might make a mistake or leave something," Shirotsuka Sanae assured. "All right, Kai wanted to go back before he heard something. No, it wasn't only him, but even Sanae could hear it. She immediately raised her flashlight. When Kai heard this sound, he was surprised, as this was a kind of ultrasonic sound. And hearing the frequency of this sound, he immediately realized it was the same for Shirotsuka Sanae, who already saw the figure of the magical beast. Both of them said at the same time, "Bat Dastien," Chapter 40, Fighting the Bat. Bat. It was a huge bat with a wingspan of 2 meters and a huge body. Both Shirotsuka Sanai and Kai immediately raised their weapons. This was the first time Kai saw Shirotsuka Sanai's weapon. It was 2 4-bladed star knives. Their appearance was akin to a shuriken, but it was larger. Kai could hear the quiet sounds of the string attached to the star knives. Shirotsuka Sanai was a master of dual-wielding these 2 star knives. She threw both of her star knives toward the bat, specifically its wings. She controlled her star knives with a string together with her element, so it could make a very special movement. The bat tried to dodge it by flying upward, but at this time there was a sound of wind from the floor. The wind suddenly knocked the star knives upward. The star knives cut both of its wings. However, Shirotsuka Sanae suddenly felt something from her side. When she checked it with her wind, she saw another bat coming toward her. She knew her star knives wouldn't have enough time to protect her, so she immediately raised her magic shield and braced for the impact. Fortunately, at this time, Kai suddenly appeared between her and the bat. He swung both of his swords to cut down the bat's wings before kicking the bat away. Seeing that, Shirotsuka Sanai threw her star knives again and killed the bat. Cree. The bat let out a dying sound. Without saying anything, Kai and Shirotsuka Sanae retreated a few steps and regrouped. "You're good. I think I need to block its attack before killing it," Sanae praised. Of course, even though the situation was under control, she still thanked him. "Anyway, thanks." However, Kai didn't say anything. He suddenly raised his hand, confusing Sanae's echolocation. A magic circle appeared on top of his hand before turning into a green circular screen. In that circle, there were 3 types of dots. The first dot was blue, placed in the middle of the screen. The second were yellow dots. They were scattered around the screen, and last was the red dot. There were around 7 red dots on it. "What's this?" Sanae asked in confusion. "You can say that it's sonar," Kai replied. "Sonar? Wait. If you're using the sonar principle to create this skill, you'll attract the magical beasts nearby," she warned hurriedly. It was normal for her to react that way. After all, it had been proven that sonar was capable of attracting magical beasts. However, what she didn't know was the power of Kai's hearing. "It is okay. Because of my special hearing, I can hear far higher frequencies than normal people, and I made this skill after considering the hearing of magical beasts. So, this magic can only be heard by my ears and won't attract other magical beasts," Kai explained briefly. Shirotsuka Sanae was surprised to see a student develop a new skill of his own. After all, this would only be taught after they became third-year students. If it was a college, it could be said the development of new skills would be their last assignment for graduation. However, To think that a first-year student could already do such a thing, it was hard to believe. Shirotsuka Sanae looked at the screen and saw the red dots coming toward the blue one, which indicates their location. Cheech, we'll need to deal with the bats first, Kai said, as the red dots would arrive in a few seconds. The bats weren't attracted by his sonar, as they had been moving even before he used his echolocation skill. Shirotsuka Sanae frowned. She had a lot of questions in her mind, but when she tried to feel the air around her, there were indeed 7 flying objects coming toward them, and it should be more of those bats, just like he said. Just leave this to me, Shirotsuka Sanae said with a serious expression as she walked forward. The hole was around 5 meters wide. It wasn't too wide for her to kill the bats in one go, especially since she knew their location as well as their formation because of Kai's echolocation skill. She made 2 small tornadoes on each side, leaving only a 1-meter gap that didn't have any wind in front of her. Even though the bats were magical beasts, their moves were predictable. Because of the wind walls on each side, the bats would immediately charge from the middle. In Kai's magic screen, the red dots slowly moved closer to the middle. At the same time, Shirotsuka Sanae threw her star knives, exploiting their predictable movements. The bata immediately noticed the incoming star knives as they tried to move toward the side. Sadly, they didn't have enough time, as Sanae used her wind element to boost the speed of her star knives. It immediately shredded the bat at the very front to pieces before the wind tornadoes on the side helped her turn the star knives to the side with each star knife for each side. And just like that, Shirotsuka Sanae killed all of the bats in one go. Kai was astonished by her skill. If it were him, he would need to kill the magical beasts one by one and distract them with sounds. Of course, he could control the frequency of the sound he produced, so it would be effective to bats, since they relied on sound to perceive the nearby objects. As expected from a professional, she was truly an expert. Kai looked at Shirotsuka Sanae, who pulled back her weapons and walked toward him. Your ability is pretty useful, she praised. Kai shook his head. I missed these bats earlier. I thought they were just harmless magical beasts. Unfortunately, they turned out to be E-rank magical beasts. When we met the first 2 bats, I used the sound of their sleeping state and marked down those 7. However, this stadium seems not safe. No, this stadium should be safe. Well, this place is dark, so no matter how hard we search, we might miss some. That's why the teachers also started patrolling around this area. However, it seems that the bats just came to this place recently, since no one would miss those huge bats. She looked at him with another intention. Come and join me. I want to make sure that I won't miss more of them. Kai pondered for a bit, but ultimately he agreed. It was considered to be helpful, since he also didn't want to sleep while there were enemies nearby. Both of them then started roaming around the stadium to see if they missed any more. Surprisingly, they found more than 100 bats inside the stadium. Most of them were annihilated by Shirotsuka Sanae, as Kai only supported her from the back. Of course, the other teachers were surprised to see Kai and Shirotsuka Sanae together. After all, they knew about Shirotsuka Sanae's sloppy attitude. Even though they already knew she would be different when she wore a military uniform, it was still very surprising to see a student come together with her. However, after knowing that Kai only came with her to help her, they immediately dispersed and searched around. They didn't know why, but seeing that a student was more helpful than they were triggered them. Sadly, the fact that Kai and Sanae managed to kill almost 10 times they did together made them frustrated. Finally, after finishing the job, most of them went back to the field after patrolling. The students were surprised, as they could see blood splattered on their teachers' clothes. Ayaka was also surprised, but the reason for her surprise was different. She never expected that Kai would come out together with the teachers, especially when she saw Kai walking together with Shirotsuka Sanae. It was as though her instinct just kicked in. She came to Kai and asked, "Did you get into trouble and the teachers came to help you? You should have brought me with you." Kai looked at her in confusion. He shook his head and replied, "No, the teachers were patrolling inside the stadium. Since we came from the helicopters and directly landed on the field, the teachers were patrolling again to make sure this area is safe. Most of them have come out, but a few of them are still patrolling." Kai still had this uneasy feeling, but since he had fully searched the stadium, it should be fine. The teachers had also increased their patrolling area. He then just sat around while waiting for the time he could sleep. Kai looked at Ayaka, whose face was red. She tried to look away so Kai couldn't see her face. However, Kai also noticed the device in her hand. He knew that she was researching with that device again, like when they were on the plane and in the helicopter. She was serious about being the lookout, though. Researching again. Aren't you going to sleep? Kai asked. This is a bit interesting, so I'll just skip my sleep today, she said embarrassedly. Kai paused for a bit before saying, Well, I'm going to sleep then, he said before he fell asleep like a log. He never had a problem with a female beside him while he was sleeping. He had been trained by his sister, as she was more ferocious than Ayaka. Of course, when Ayaka saw Kai sleeping, she couldn't help but glance at him a few times. She looked at Kai, who was very reliable all the time, suddenly drop his guard down like this. In another tent, Katsuragi Takaki was calling someone. Sadly, Kai was sleeping, so he didn't hear it. If he did, he would immediately know that they would encounter a problem soon.